Yeah.
Like 7 years ago.
She doesn't want them.
Good evening and welcome to the May 18th meeting of the Litchfield School Board. I'll call the meeting to order and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have a very busy agenda tonight, so I'll ask first if we have any revisions to the agenda.
So just a couple, and everything that's been revised is in the online version in red.
Okay.
I'm proposing that we have the business administrator report under presentations and recognitions so
Okay.
that he can do that early on.
Mhm.
And then I've added 2 items to my report, which I'll go over when we get there.
Okay. So we'll add the BA report after the LMS presentations and reports.
So it's the same report. We'll just pull it up to F, presentations and recognitions on after the LMS
After the
Student
students.
Council. Yep.
Perfect. All right. All right. With that, I have a summary of non-public actions from May 4th, 2022. Mrs. Harrison made a motion to approve the non-public minutes of April 20th, 2022. Mrs. Ames seconded. The motion failed 2-0-2 with Mrs. Harrison and Mr. Cutter abstaining. Mrs. Hirschberger was out of the room. Mrs. Hirschberger returned to the room. Mrs. Ames made a motion to approve the non-public minutes of April 20th, 22. Mrs. Harrison seconded. The motion carried 3-0-2 with Mrs. Harrison and Mr. Cutter abstaining. Mrs. Harrison made a motion to accept the resignation of Marie Polychronopoulos, GMS psychologist. Mrs. Ames seconded. The motion carried 5-0-0. Mrs. Harrison made a motion to accept the resignation of Rebecca Moore, part-time district occupational therapist. Mr. Cutter seconded. The motion carried 5-0-0. Mr. Cutter made a motion to accept the resignation of Annika Vitans, LMS science teacher. Mrs. Ames seconded. The motion carried 5-0-0. Mr. Cutter made a motion to accept the resignation of Corey Isbicki, business administrator, effective June 30th, 2022. Mrs. Hirschberger seconded. The motion carried 5-0-0. Mr. Cutter made a motion to accept the resignation of Samantha Beaudry, GMS teacher. Mrs. Ames seconded. The motion carried 5-0-0. Mrs. Ames made a motion to schedule a virtual non-public meeting on May 11th, 2022 at 7 p.m. for the board to review personnel contracts in a timely manner. Mrs. Harrison seconded. The motion carried 5-0-0. Summary of non-public actions from May 11th, 22. Mrs. Harrison made a motion to accept the nomination of Doug Totten as business administrator for the Litchfield School District at a salary of $107,000 for the 22-23 year. Mrs. Ames seconded. The motion carried by roll call vote. Mrs. Harrison, yes. Mrs. McDonald, yes. Mrs. Hirschberger, yes. Mrs. Ames, yes. And Mr. Cutter, yes. Mrs. Harrison made a motion to accept the nomination of Martha Abney as LMS grade 7 social studies teacher at a salary of $64,414 for the 22-23 year. Mr. Cutter seconded. The motion carried by roll call vote. Mrs. Harrison, yes. Mrs. McDonald, yes. Mrs. Hirschberger, yes. Mrs. Ames, yes. Mr. Cutter, yes. Mrs. Harrison made a motion to accept the resignation of Rebecca Ellis, language pathologist, and Christina Rice Pearson, CHS part-time physical education teacher. Mrs. McDonald seconded. The motion carried by roll call vote. Mrs. Harrison, yes. Mrs. McDonald, yes. Mrs. Hirschberger, yes. Mrs. Ames, yes. And Mr. Cutter, yes. With that, we can move on to presentations and recognitions. It looks like first up, we have the LMS Drama Club. Welcome.
So our LMS Drama Club is here to kind of share some details with you. Come on up, guys. They had a fantastic production of The Tale of Snow White. Goodness, seems so long ago, but it really wasn't that long ago. Sold out to a full house at LMS, and they're going to share a little bit with you about what life is like in Drama Club in the middle school. So why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Hannah Couture.
Hi, I'm Talib Collins.
Hi, I'm Anna Kernan.
Hi, I'm Brianna Null. Hi, I'm Deborah Holder.
Hi, I'm Mr. Lamy. And I've asked them to prepare a little bit of something to say. I've asked them to tell me their favorite parts of the show, the biggest challenge, and what they're looking forward to most. There was a lot of growth for us. We had a big group of fifth graders this year. We've had a lot of really fun times with drama. And I want to give them an opportunity just to brag about all the cool stuff they did because they were wonderful. Hannah, I think you should go first.
Okay. One of my favorite parts of drama is actually getting to put together a show that people can watch and enjoy themselves. Something that we have struggled with a bit is learning lines on time and getting to actors to be where they needed to be at different times.
And I'd like to take a moment to brag about Hannah. Hannah was one of our tech crew leads. The show was completely run by the students. I took the hands off in the last show. I just got to sit in the crowd. So everything, if you were there, everything was done completely by students. It was wonderful. Talib.
So one of my favorite parts about the show had to be just getting your lines because you were never going to know who you were going to be. It's going to be a little surprise. And I agree with Hannah. One of the parts that we did struggle with was kind of getting our lines. Yeah.
My favorite part about Drama Club was probably when people messed up their lines, including myself. It was always really funny, but people recovered really well from it. And one thing that I personally struggled with is I'm a shy person in general with people I don't know, so it was hard for me to have the confidence to go on stage.
My favorite part about drama is expressing myself in different ways and being able to put yourself in different people in different perspectives. What was fun about drama was the fact when somebody was messed up, you could improvise for them and nobody would know the difference because they don't know what the show was like.
My favorite part about drama was probably being able to get into your character and display different emotions about that said character. Another challenge that we had was definitely getting actors where they were supposed to be at and memorizing lines.
I also want to talk about Deborah a little bit too. Deborah was initially a tech crew person, and in the midnight hour, she jumped in to do a scene. A very important scene too. Jumped right in and started acting with about a week preparation. So very good job. And then this is Charlotte. Charlotte came a few minutes late, but Charlotte, do you remember what you're supposed to talk about? Or should I remind you?
Nope, I don't remember.
Okay. You're going to tell them your favorite part of the show, one of your biggest challenges, and then what you're looking forward to the future, which I think everyone forgot to say.
So probably the worst thing about the show was I forgot half of my lines while I was practicing. I didn't practice practically. My favorite part was probably when we got on the stage the night of the play. And I can't wait for more acting in the future on bigger shows.
Do you folks who already spoke want to share anything that you're looking forward to for the future?
Sure. One of the things that I'm looking forward to in the future is getting to reunite with some of the people from the old show that we did and just getting to act again with them.
One thing I am looking forward to for the future is definitely having more kids joining drama, and for their first times, it'll be way more funner for them and also for me. But yeah.
One thing I'm looking forward to for drama next year is helping the new kids from GMS that are joining learn how drama works and how to help them learn their lines.
For next year, I'm excited to be able to get bigger roles because Mr. Lammy didn't know what to expect going into people who have never done drama before. So getting him seeing how we are as actors, now we're going to be able to get bigger parts.
Fantastic. Outstanding.
I'm looking forward to bigger plays in the future and being able to actually have a bigger role in a new play.
And in the interest of your time, I'll wrap things up for you. But we are planning quite a few things. If you want to take a peek, Dr. Jody Gudenlein, there's some photos from the show. I can send this to you if you'd like to. This is a lot of what I was going for. That as a middle school teacher, I try to make sure that we have a goal for everything in mind. But if you go 3 more slides in, of course, we have this lovely photo of the cast. There was 46 of them in total. There were 60 plus parent and teacher emails. I had a lot of parents and teachers just chat with me about how much they loved the show. I'm a nerd about stats, so every time someone said something to me, I just checked. So I knew. We had a lot of volunteers from CHS and LMS pitch in to help the show. We had a lot of successful sales figures so I can keep doing Drama Club. And then they just did awesome. I mean, clearly by the looks of some of these kiddos' faces, they were having a lot of fun that night. Looking forward to next year. We're hoping to expand into potentially a musical. We are in the planning stages right now. We are utilizing our 6-unit wireless system. This year was a little bit too much for us to learn, especially since we had more than 6 actors on stage at all times. So it just made more sense to maybe hold off until we could use that for the future. An expanded timeline. As a first-time drama director, there was things that I did really well and things that I was not quite sure how to do. And for next year, I'm planning on starting a bit earlier on scenes and backgrounds, so that way we can just have it look even prettier, and then expand our network of volunteers, because so many folks just jumped in when they saw how wonderful things were going, and I'm going to start asking them to help out a little sooner. Yeah, and if you have any questions for the folks in front of them, they are a little bit nervous, but they'll try their best. If you have any questions for us, if not, thank you so much.
I was in attendance, and I thought you all did a fantastic job. I know a few of us were. It was such a fantastic evening, and well done to all of you.
The big mic is actually here. Not
Yes.
that big mic, but this big mic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
I went to both shows. You guys were fantastic. You made me laugh, and I liked noticing the little differences between the two shows. I think that's the best part, right? You get to improv, you get to do it a little bit different every time, and you guys rolled with it. You hit your lines. You did awesome. So good job.
Awesome. Fantastic.
Thank you guys for coming in.
Keep up the great work.
Absolutely.
Drama Club, I'll be sure of that. Check.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is our student council, who has a quick presentation and a ceremonial handover of a check that is not in our hands at the moment, but will be.
Welcome.
Hi.
Hi. Hey, Zach.
Let me start.
Here's our end of year update for the 2021-22 year. Giving back to the community has been a large part of student council and what we've wanted to do since the start. We've donated a total of 1,375 non-perishable goods this year, and 1,125 of those were donated to the Litchfield Food Pantry, and 250 were donated to end 68 hours of hunger.
This year we did our first pep rally since the start of the pandemic, where we acknowledged the middle school, fall, and winter athletes, and also this year, since it was special that we had so many teachers retiring, we gave each retiring teacher a flower pot, and then we are also able to participate for the first time with doing the cheers with the spirit stick, which is an LMS tradition that we used to do in the past.
Dodgeball results: a total of 9 teams in our dodgeball tournament competed, and all 4 grades were represented. The LMS UA teams assisted during the tournament play, and the finals were held during the pep rally. Play fees collected allowed us to donate $200 to both the Litchfield and Police Fire Associations.
For the end of this year, we are working to organize some things like the Terry Fox Day, which is to honor Terry Fox, who walked from the East Coast to the West Coast, I think, wasn't it? With a prosthetic leg. And then we're also planning a student council retreat for the members of student council, because since we've been working so hard to make all these things possible, we do deserve like
A little fun. Celebration.
a celebration.
Yeah. Yeah. Good for you.
So we do have representation here from the Litchfield Police Association. If you want to come on up, and our student council would have a virtual check for you in a grand total of $200 for the Litchfield Police Association on behalf of our students and families. We thank you very much. And there's an additional check for $200 from the Litchfield Fire Association. So thank you so much for all you do. The students selected, again, you want to say a little bit about how you selected Litchfield Police and Fire?
So when the bomb threat was made, they helped all those 3 schools and made sure everyone was safe. And so we thought giving back to the community, since it's like a very large part of what we wanted to do, we thought that was acceptable because they kept us safe during that. And it was a pretty chaotic time.
It was 3s, and they did a great job. Thank you. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job.
Congratulations.
Jared McDonald, Campbell graduate.
Yay. Dance chaperone extraordinaire as well. He may or may not have joined the conga line as part of his police duties. That's very
I would have
important.
paid to see
Hard
that.
to resist. Thank you.
You're all set. Thanks, guys.
All right. So with that, we'll move into
Thank you.
Corey's BA and the food service report. So I guess the BA report first.
So just a couple quick updates on the projects that are going on. The municipal lease for the project work at LMS officially closed on April 26th. The escrow fund has been funded, and payments will be made directly from that escrow account to North Branch. Based on what the construction manager is telling us, that we're about 95% bought out on the project, meaning subcontractors are in for the trade work to be completed. So now the big struggle is ordering all the materials that are needed for the project. We did pay a deposit on the new outdoor cooler for the kitchen, so that is one thing that should be coming in during the summer for installation. And then we're just waiting on a proposal, a monetary proposal from Resilient Building Group for acting as commissioning agent for the middle school project. And then I think they've been invited next week to be involved in the project meeting. GMS, we're just focusing on next steps. We did receive a proposal from Barker Architects to continue their work until such time as the official construction contract goes into place. Anything that's done under this proposal will be credited against the final contract. And then we just continue to work on the state building aid application. CHS lighting, the materials did come in on the 17th and the project is underway. They're working 12-hour shifts on installation, so they'll be there. They were there last night and they'll be there tonight as well, working on that. And then I gave a full set of the general fund financials, more clearly defining what we're looking at in terms of the deficit and capital project fund and the monies that will be necessary to transfer over before year end to help bring that deficit down. And then just gave the statistics that I have on all the normal monthly financials that I provide. The food service, still excited about the fact that they're showing about $115,000 in fund balance. Still projecting that they'll finish the year between 100 and 150,000 in fund balance, which is good. Being an enterprise fund, they carry the fund balance from year to year, so helped offset some of the expenses in the subsequent year. And with that, I asked Lauren to come in tonight to give a brief presentation and overview on the food service program that's having a lot of success this year.
Hi, everybody. So I'll be pretty brief. Excuse me. So in the I've updated the spreadsheets that kind of give like a month-to-month like snapshot of what we've done, and they are shared with the school board. So those are available for viewing. I did update March and April. Just to give you a breakdown, total counts for March, we served district-wide 7,055 breakfasts, which is 3,600 over March of 2021, and 12,496 lunches, which is 3,080 over March of 2021. And then April, we served 6,488 breakfasts district-wide, which is 3,304 over April 21, and 10,728 lunches over, for April. and that's 2,500 over April of 2021. So this universal free meals is awesome, and the kids are coming in, they're eating, and it's great. Unfortunately, that's where that will end, because as of the end of this school year, as I think a lot of people are aware, our federally funded lunches are no longer. The Congress didn't include them in the waivers extension. So I know the Senate's trying to do something about getting free meals. I haven't received any kind of update, but just to let everybody know that is as of this point in time ending as of the last day of school. We've already started communicating that out via our Facebook page. We've also, every time I send a low or negative balance letter home, it also is stated right on there that it is ending, either pay up, not pay up, but, pay the balances off, make sure they're in a positive standing, et cetera, et cetera. And as I go forward, more communication will be coming forth with that when, closer to the end of the school year, and then really bombarding people in August to make sure people know that we are going to paid meals and back to the fun that is paid meals. So what I'm asking for consideration from the school board is a price increase for our food up to 15 cents more, which would put Griffin at $2.50 a lunch and middle and high school at $2.75 a lunch. We're experiencing price increases, as everyone has seen, all over the place from all of our vendors, including paper, chemicals, food, and to make a great effort to stay in the black. This is something we're waiting for more guidance on the USDA. Normally we have that around this time. We don't have it at this point in time, but it's just I'm asking for a consideration on that.
Lauren, I don't have a link to anything that you have said you shared with us. So
okay, I can share that with you. It's
okay.
It's called, I think it's school board food service. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay.
It's definitely shared with the school board, because I did check before I left work today.
So is that something that price increase, something that we can kind of look over and revisit?
I can get that information for you.
Thank
Yep,
you.
absolutely. And I'll email that out or share that out with you.
Do you know what the reimbursement rate is for next year
We don't have
from
that
the
information
government?
yet.
So what's kind of always been surprising to me is that the government reimburses us for meals at a different rate than what we charge. And I would think that they are reimbursing us at a rate that they think is fair. So why wouldn't we charge what they were charging? Do you know what I mean?
I understand what you're saying. So I can give you at least information based on the 2018-19 school year, which was the last full year pre-COVID. A paid kid, we got 37 cents back per paid lunch. If you were a reduced kiddo, we got $2.97 back from the government, and if you were a free kiddo, we got $3.37 back. I don't know how the USDA determines the reimbursement rates. To be honest, I really don't know. They just
Say that again. If you were a paid
were a paid student, the food service program got 37 cents per paid kid back.
So
Per
supplemental,
paid kid back.
the family paid how much at that time?
Yeah.
18-19 was $2.50 at the high school and middle school.
And then we received an additional 37 cents
Correct.
from the government.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like a little subsidy to help bring it closer to.
Yeah. And then they give you more for a free kiddo.
But don't we have to include like labor and stuff like that?
That's all
Wouldn't that be
included in
part
that.
of it? They can't pay us for labor. They can help us with food, but I assume they're not helping us.
Utensils, these other things.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
but still, there's a gap, right? So 337, that's on the high. That's the most they would reimburse. So I would think that would be where we set our rate at, right? Because if they're reimbursing us the 337, nothing's coming from the student. Is that correct?
Well, that's for a free student. Yes.
It's for free.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? So I don't know.
I don't-
Just to me that.
It'd be helpful to have the details so we can digest
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
Thank you.
We just livened up the link, so it's
Okay.
there.
Oh, cool.
But I think presenting it tonight and giving us a chance to think about it, have
Yes,
a chance for
sorry.
the public to react is okay, because we can take action at the next board meeting.
Mhm.
without
Absolutely.
Any
Oh, there it
detriment.
is. Okay.
And Lauren, while you're in front of the public, I think there's one subtle thing I just want you to really clarify, because in the past, families that were qualified for free and reduced had sort of a grandfather period in September.
Yes.
That's not going to be the case, is it?
If they applied this year, yes, it is.
But
So
they had to have filled the paperwork
you
out.
had to have filled the paperwork out. So if you are a family that typically receives free and reduced meals in a non-pandemic year, you do have and you filled out an application for this school year, you do have that 30-day grace period. If you did not, and you are a family that needs it, if you would like to start receiving free meals on the first day of school, once the information is available, that application will need to be in.
Is it possible to send that information out, like the application out at the end of this year?
Once I have the application, it's all
Okay.
when we get it from the USDA and the state. So normally by this time I have like our profit, our paid lunch equity tool that determines our pricing, and we haven't received anything as of right now. So normally we have that in like end of March. So I think it's a little scrambly at the USDA. We'll use that term.
Like eggs.
Kind of like eggs.
all our messaging is around the importance of doing that. And my biggest concern is a family in need that didn't fill the paperwork out this year because it really wasn't necessary.
Right.
And now on not even September 1st, it'll be
August
August.
31st.
Yeah, that they're going to hit the wall. And I just think we have to be really clear getting that word out. So.
And that's going to be part of my initiative back in August when I returned, is getting that messaging out, getting that information out. As soon as I get it, it will be available for people. If they send me the application tomorrow, I'll put it out tomorrow. But once I get it, I will pass it along. So just for consideration, again, I will update all of that pricing information, but again, up to 15 cents more is what we're looking at. And again, we are still waiting for USDA guidance on that.
Based on what these proposed costs, what you're proposing, would you anticipate, to the best of your knowledge, that the food service fund would become self-sustaining, not even including the balance, but overall getting to the point where we're not having to dip into town funds? Do you anticipate that?
I think your
happening?
struggle is really going to be supply chain and what's available through the market prices on everything are going up.
Hanford's empty again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's really hard to guarantee. I think starting the following year with between $100,000 and $150,000 in fund balance is a really good start at achieving that break even that you really want. But you can't guarantee going into next year what's going to happen with supply chain and such.
We've had some
Adds to
preliminary
cost.
conversations with other districts. It's not unique. When you look at the meal prices, and we all know what food costs and we all know what labor costs are, it really is not structured to be self-sufficient based on where all the numbers come. And that's just the reality of it. So we try hard, but as you've seen over the last few years, it's been a struggle.
So over the last few years, you're saying it's not meant to be self-sufficient or not able to be self-sufficient.
We would have to increase meal prices substantially to achieve that self-sufficiency. I mean, even with the increase at $2.75, and remember, there's other government assistance like the commodity foods, et cetera, that help to, we're not buying hamburger at $6 a pound. We're able to purchase it on the commodities market. And Lauren's gotten really good about higher cost items being the things that we take on the commodities. So she's really,
It's a game.
it's a game, and she plays it well because she picks the right things. It still is very difficult to serve the meals and hit all the components for the price that we collect.
A question, if I may.
Sure.
With the LMS renovation that's anticipated for starting at some point this summer, the idea behind that and how that was presented was we'll be able to transition from a reheat to an actual capability of cooking. So how does that impact how you're planning for LMS lunches next year?
So it's going to be hard if the equipment, and I think from what my understanding is at this present moment is we're getting the refrigeration and the walk-in sorted, but the rest of once the equipment, the new stoves, the new ovens, everything comes in, that's when I'll be able to get down into there and work with the staff down there. They do a lot of cooking now. It's not so much reheat now, which is good. It's in the forward direction. Excuse me, sorry.
Based on the product, kitchen equipment's at a year. That's how far out they are.
Your weight.
For the stove and
Yeah.
For the commercial
So-
equipment we need.
Commercial grade equipment.
Yeah. So it's going to be once we get all that in, that's when like I said, I'm going to get in and work with the staff, make sure we're really kind of transitioning into that homemade. We've made a lot of strides at Griffin this year, going to home. Tomorrow they're getting burgers made from scratch. Literally, we're taking the beef and forming the patties, and we're trying as best we can with the equipment we have available to do more scratch cooking and get there. So it's all still a work in progress. With that being said, we can absolutely do things now with the equipment that we have. So in the next school year, like this year, my focus was Griffin and really getting them up and to a better place of, instead of just kind of reheating food, more cooking that way. Next year will kind of be my middle school focus, because I had the high school like the first couple of years. So it's kind of, we're doing the best with what we have at this present moment. But once that equipment comes in, it's going to kind of just be, we're going to have the skills under our belts for it, that the transition shouldn't be that big of a deal.
Okay. But I mean, in terms of actually preparing for next year, it sounds like we have another year out based upon equipment, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that could, I mean, if you're doing more cooking and more preparation, if that could increase your prices yet again on lunches, right? And I just want to make sure that we're thinking about all of the work that's going in, and we're being prepared for that as we think about rate setting.
Absolutely. So it's like I said, it's always a work in progress, and food service is forever a project you tweak. It's never going to be like 100% perfect. So, yeah, we're going to do our best with what we have, like we have been. And then hopefully when that equipment does come in, it will make my staff's lives a lot easier to have like up-to-date proper equipment.
Darlene's making faces behind you.
Up-to-date proper equipment and
Space.
in space. And then the staff will have the skills to seamlessly move right into it and continue doing what we're going to do. So does that answer your question?
Yeah,
I know,
thank you
sorry.
very much. Yep.
So just to kind of keep on trucking here, in 2018, when I first came on board, I had the present school board at the time. They came in, they had lunch with us. You learned about how our program works, whatever. Andrew and Heidi, I'd love to extend that to you for maybe in September. Maybe, let's get through the rest of this year. And and then have you both come in together separately, what have you. Obviously, Tina, Liz, and Tara, you're also invited to come, if we can
We've
set up-
already worked in the kitchen during
You
COVID.
have. That is a true
Yes,
statement.
we've actually
worked the kitchen.
We know the ins and outs.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
But you are also, I wanted to extend the invitation to you as well. But just
Thank
to
you.
kind of give us a little more, it's easy to look at it and go, oh, they serve lunches, but to see the ins and outs of it, or kind of learn a little more in depth, I would really, where you are the new board members, I'd really love to extend that to you both and, come in and have lunch with us. And
Thank you. We'd love that.
I'll talk to you all day long about food. It's great. So just some other things that we're doing in the program, just to kind of keep, despite our staffing, situations, we are hiring everybody. Hi, Litchfield, we're hiring. Okay. So, at Griffin, I'm happy to report that grades 1 through 4 are all eating in the cafeteria again as of May 2nd. The kiddos are loving it. The transition went really smoothly. The staff and the lunch monitors have all been fantastic. I can't say enough great things about how that transition that could have been kind of hairy has done really well. And there's even times where we're like, we're changing this and doing this today. And the kids are just like, cool. And they just do it. So they're kiddos more and more every day. When can we use our number on the pin? When can we punch our number? They are dying to. So everyone has been given, all the teachers have been given their class rosters with copies of like our little like pin drawing or template. And so the kiddos can, they can write their number in and then come in and punch it in on the pin pad. And it's awesome. It's really great to have them all back in and kind of have it be like a real cafeteria again. Like I said, we're cooking a lot more meals from scratch down there. I've been down at Griffin almost every single day this year, helping them out, retraining them on how to make their work a little more efficient and their food. I can't say enough. Their accounts have from 2021 to 2022. I'm just going to use April for the fact of this. They are increased 288 breakfasts for a month and almost 294 lunches. Their counts are going up, and that's more hot lunches. We're doing on average between 175 and 200 hot lunches a day down there, which is
not what it was previously. So that's really, really great. The staff are awesome. I'm so excited about Griffin and all the things that have been happening. And now that we're back in CAF, I can do even more things. So I'm just really psyched that that's a thing. So that's great. Middle school, I have to say, and props because I know Jen and Martha here are bragging and boasting the highest breakfast counts in the district pretty much since we started breakfast. And they are, they climbed over 2,434 breakfasts from April 2021 to April 2022. They're doing what, close to 200? Darlene. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. But I will say, and it's not that I'm not showcasing Darlene. This is not, but Jen promoted it during Breakfast Wars. She got on the intercom and she promoted it. And I think it shows a huge difference of what a simple promotion can do for our program. So, and everyone at the middle school works so hard, and I'm not saying they don't. That has been the coolest thing to me, to watch that go in such a drastic 180. So
from a parent perspective of 2 middle schoolers, I love the extra time in the morning of not having to make breakfast because they would prefer to get breakfast at school. Okay,
that's fine. Well, you prefer they get breakfast at school too.
Excellent.
Same with mine. However, they miss the second high school breakfast.
I understand. Yeah, I understand. We there was some big concerns and issues with the high school second breakfast, unfortunately. And at one point, the amount of headache it was causing versus in theft and everything like that, it was just, we had to, unfortunately. We had kids who would pay and then turn around and take a beverage out of the cooler and just walk off with it without having paid for it. And it just got to be it was too much. Yeah. So unfortunately, I'm hoping in the future, maybe we can look at a different option for something like that. But for now, the way it is, it's just unfortunate. But
you don't have the staff to stand there.
Yeah, no, we don't have staff to babysit. Yeah, we don't have the staff hardly to serve the lunches, to let alone sit there and monitor every kid who comes in. But I will say, I'm working closely with Darlene and her staff to get that middle school fridge and freezer completely cleaned out. She's been really instrumental with menu ideas and making sure so that way on the last day of school, that fridge and freezer is cleared, ready to go to get out of there. Up at the high school, the deli is now averaging over 50 sandwiches a day. There's some days it's up to almost 75, 80 sandwiches. She is a wrap machine. And all the kids, they call her Miss Jamie. They all love her. So that's going really, really well. We also have a pre-order form. That's a Google form for staff. Juniors and seniors can all pre-order their sandwich. Yeah, Laura gets it a lot. Yeah. So they can just come up and pick up their sandwich without having to. It's kind of a perk of being a junior or senior. Nice. And I'm looking and working with the staff there to expand our grab and go selections into the next school year, including charcuterie cups. I know. Like protein packs like you'd see at Starbucks, different parfait meals, updated sandwich and salad selections, a lot more vegetarian selections. So nice. There's a lot forward thinking. So
I think
that's where we're at.
As a parent of a picky eater, a lifelong picky eater, who just recently started getting hot lunch every day. Thank you.
Yeah, right.
Thank you to Darlene and the staff at LMS. It's wonderful. And both my kids now are getting lunch every day.
That makes me happy.
It makes me happy because I don't have to pack lunches. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for
anything for me?
Lauren?
I kind of blew through that.
No, thank you for the update. Nice to see you.
No problem. Nice to see you as well.
Thank you.
I will reach out to both of you about setting something up, maybe, like I said, maybe for the fall. And I think it would be great to talk to you. I get to know you a little bit more.
Thank you.
And you can deal with me. So thank you so much. Have a great night.
Lauren.
Madam Chairman, just a couple questions back on the business.
Yes, I had some too. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. So for LMS, do we have access to the specs and everything that was been ordered as a board? Is there like a
For what, the designs?
So what's actually being ordered? Like, do we have specs or files or invoices or anything that you can share for like the HVAC equipment and the solar and things like that we can see?
Usually don't receive that in detail from North Branch. We can. They can give us, we did have to provide a specific equipment list within one of the applications. But other than that, they order it through the subs. They figure that out.
But they're ordering based upon our direction, correct? I mean, so what did we send them for specs?
Based on consultant recommendation of the best equipment available to do what's needed to be done in the building. So, like, me and Mike don't know how to order an ERV.
Yeah.
So they,
No doubt.
But we will, so it is all spec'd out in the drawings. So we can get you a copy of the drawings, and then it would say, you know, the energy recovery ventilator, and it'll be this model that they've spec'd.
Yeah,
or
that's great.
equivalent. And then, so part of the reason why hiring the commissioning agent is to make sure we get what we paid for. You know, they go back through and they say, okay, the mechanical engineer ordered this unit and you installed this, which is a like comparable unit. So, you know, they're the ones who will do all that piece to make sure we get what we paid for. But we can certainly get those drawings. The other thing is on North Branch, I can't remember the name of that software, CMI or something. There was a construction management
construction
module,
management,
and we were able to log in, and every single piece of the project was documented there. There were daily photos, serial numbers, you know, blah, blah, blah. All that stuff is recorded in this system and is permanently recorded there. So, you know, it's basically North Branch is covering themselves so that if there were to be a lawsuit or a disagreement about how something worked, that's the place where all of that is recorded. So we can figure out how to get access to that or get you whatever you need out of it.
Is there a timeline?
The timeline has not been established yet because we're still on this supply chain thing. So they're putting in, like Corey said, 95% of it has been ordered, but then you're waiting for the manufacturer to deliver. And the other problem is, and this is why the project is getting dragged out. In a perfect world, this thing arrives before that thing. But in reality, we may get that thing first and not be able to do anything with it because you're waiting for this thing to still come in. And I know I'm being vague when I describe it, but you know, they have a way that they want stuff to come in, but you're just at the mercy
You put the
of
railings in before you put the base of the porch, and I get it. We get it.
where is it and when is it going to arrive and how are we going to handle it? It's like this is, and every single contractor that we talk to will tell you this is unheard of. Never seen anything like this.
We can continue this when we talk about the next step.
Did you have any other questions for Corey?
Just if there's a way to see those specs or get access, and that'd be
yeah,
great.
I can share I'll share the plans to the school board.
That makes perfect
Perfect.
sense.
Thank you very much.
Do it that way.
One other question I had, it's on page 2, first bullet. So the fund balance. This says fund balance to be returned through tax rate setting is reflected at 200. This is at 200,000. This is after taking into account the account transfer not posted of 762.
I haven't posted the transfer yet because I don't know the exact amount it's going to be at the end of the year. So it could be more or less than the amount that's noted in the report. Still fluctuates.
What's that? What exactly is that for? The 762, 749 to the capital project fund. What can you
It's
just
to fund the deficit? There's a deficit in the capital project fund that you have to fund with. The local portion of funding comes from the general fund.
That was my question too. If you could explain why there's a deficit in that reserve fund.
We've received certain funds from impact fees and capital reserve funds. We didn't know exactly the amount of local funding. So the way to do is you make the expenditures out of the capital project fund. You record the revenues as they come in. And then as the year pans out, then you get a clearer picture of what the local funding piece looks like. That's why it comes from, you can either do it this way or you can do it through fund balance at year end and transfer it over.
This
But
looks like
my recommendation is to fund as much of that deficit as you possibly can out of year end fund balance. You don't want that to grow, and you can continue to go for grant opportunities through Dick Henry to try and pull back as much more revenue as we possibly
So is the 762,000 to cover the deficit?
Yeah.
This just reads to
An
me like
offsetting-
we've spent
it's an offsetting revenue.
a heck of a lot more money than we should
Yeah,
have.
I mean,
And I'm trying to understand that.
that's almost $1 million.
Phase one's under budget. Phase one was under budget.
Right.
But
But
we
it-
had funds for
What's phase one? I'm sorry.
roof. It was the roof and minor renovations. The guidance.
So we're talking about LMS.
And windows.
Okay.
And windows. That piece did come under budget.
Yeah.
However, it's only partially funded by the grant funds that we had. We expected to spend $1.7 something million on phase one, but you only had certain amount of grants and capital reserve funds that are coming back to that. So we have to determine what the local amount is, and that's what that transfer represents.
So I guess the way I'm understanding this, if I put it all together, right? Currently, there's a projection somewhere in the $962,000 range at the end of the year, of which we're going to take $762,000 of that, and the board will vote to approve a transfer to the capital project fund, right? And then you're proposing a $200,000 return to the taxpayer out of that as well. But I'm also seeing in this same paragraph that will still leave a deficit of $225,000. So why would we return to the taxpayer if there's a deficit still?
That's a determination. The 200,000 is what we put in the budget documents that go to the state as to balance our budget and the budgeting system.
Typically
That's
each year.
That's the will of
Typically
that's.
But why wouldn't that be zeroed out? That's
the will of the board. That's the will of the board. I'm just doing what I'm reflecting it as I understand it right now. If the will of the board is to fund as much down and not
I don't know
offset
why we
that.
wouldn't have this all paid off. It's like, why are we carrying a deficit?
Well, and one other reminder for the board is that,
and these numbers will get clearer as we get.
Yeah, understand.
We also had, and Corey, I can't remember the dollar amount, but there was that supplemental revenue that came from the state, and that was an unbudgeted revenue, right? So, and how much was that? Do you remember roughly?
252.
Right. So we sort of looked at it, and we had a conversation with the previous board, so not with Andrew, but with Brian sitting here, that because we're getting an extra 252 that was unanticipated and that we can't spend because we didn't budget for it, but it's going to go back to the taxpayers. So this 200,000 that we always try to leave, we probably could spend down to zero or darn close to zero because it's offset by this additional revenue that we weren't expecting. So there will be a refund to the taxpayers because of that. And I hope I'm explaining that right, Corey. Correct me if I'm off base. But that was a conversation that we had, that this money was coming in. And so we could, in fact, do what you're proposing, get it close to, it would be a 5,000 roughly.
Yeah.
Right.
I guess the way I'm seeing this is a tax to the taxpayer of $762,000 that I didn't know about, right? And I doubt anybody in town or anybody watching now knew about.
Well, I think we've always been clear the need of local funding in the projects, that they weren't going to be covered
But we
100%.
had priced it out, and I don't. So what's surprising to me is that is it a deficit in the capital improvement fund, or is it just that the money is in another account and it wasn't put into the capital improvement fund?
The local revenue hasn't been moved yet. That's what the transfer is.
So when we had the hearing, the special hearing, the special meeting about accepting the 690,000.
You're going back a couple of years ago.
I'm going back a couple of years ago.
So I was just about to clarify that point. So there is in the capital reserve fund, there's a balance of 700 and something thousand, I think, right? So you have that money that's there. We added 125 more this year, which will go in on July 1st, right? So that money that's money in the bank, if you would.
Yeah.
What this is, Corey, correct me if I'm wrong, but you track it as an account. So you charge all the expenses into this account. That account is showing about $1 million that needs to be covered because we've tracked them all, but we haven't covered it yet. And now we need to cover the funds with the revenues that we've received.
So we have the revenues.
Okay.
They just haven't been applied.
So there's two separate accounts, one where we're making payments from and one where we have the income from, right? And now this is the wash between the two accounts.
Yep.
It's not that we don't have the 762,000
When you
already.
say deficit, you scare the bitches.
Right. I mean, that's why I'm confused by how this reads, right? It's not like we don't already
it's
have
to
this
run
money.
the project separately, because if you're trying to run a project like this through the general fund with everything else, you're going to lose something. You're going to miss something. You might have a common vendor that's working on multiple things and you charge the wrong thing. So it's a tracking fund. And then
which is different. The money is in a literal bank account. It's in a place versus this is a sub fund within the books, if you would. So this is like a paper tracking, I guess.
But did I hear that this is coming from the general fund?
Yeah.
That's different to me than coming from a separate account.
But it leaves that other account whole. So the board could say, no, we don't want to take it from the general fund. We want to move it from that fund. that's a different question. I guess that's.
I see. So you
If you wanted to reimburse it from but then you'll get down the line of.
and you deplete that account.
You deplete that account, and now you've got the architecture bills that are coming in.
Right. Okay.
Which is what I've used. I've utilized the
But we've
capital
only
reserve.
approved up to 5,000 for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that shouldn't be a big deal. We shouldn't have hundreds of thousands of dollars of architecture bills.
When all is said and done, the total cost of the architecture for the GMS project is going to be in the $2 million range. The
And
5,000 is just, we're going to take this little baby step to the next set of designs until we know we settle on a site and all those things.
Yeah.
There's still a whole lot of.
But the board hasn't approved that yet, right?
Yeah, we
We approved the.
You approved the 5,000,
Yeah.
but the 2 million.
Yes, we did.
You accepted the risk of, so what you accepted was, we're going to design to the site that we want to be on, and knowing that if for some reason that site didn't come through, it would cost an extra 5,000 to adjust to another site.
Oh, that's not my understanding of how that motion.
That wasn't my understanding either.
Me neither.
That you're into it, that it would be, okay, so now we have to relocate the school to another site, and doing that, picking up what they drew, readjusting a little bit and reorienting on a different piece of property would be about a $5,000 extra.
But the board voted and approved the contract with Barker Architects
Yes.
for all the pre-bond work. So that,
What's
A year ago.
yes.
Yeah, so that question was a year ago, although we want to come back to you with, we have another proposal from Kyle that Corey and I are working with Dave Ely on to reconcile against Kyle's original proposal. So that's a separate question.
Right.
But yes.
Okay, so that just to recap on this point, I want to make sure I'm crystal clear. We have an account. It has 700 and some odd $1,000 in it at this point in time. Probably almost 800, or if it was 690 plus 125, right?
Well,
ballpark
on July 1st, because that'll be.
Okay.
The end of the year,
Right.
beginning of the new year.
The way this reads is we're going to propose to leave that account as is.
Mhm.
We're anticipating 962,000, give or take, at the end of the school year, of which instead of using that separate account, we can use budget money that's already in our general fund to cover the deficit of costs. In addition to that, we can also say, hey, we're going to return $200,000 to the taxpayer, but that does leave a budget deficit of 225 and change. I understand. Thank you.
So, and as the numbers get clearer, I think we can sit down and discuss which you might, through PO management, through payroll liquidation, through all the things that happen at year end, there may be more in fund balance than I'm seeing at this point. So it's gonna get clearer and clearer as we go over the next several meetings.
I have a question. Payments to North Branch will be directly funded through escrow. So is that money that should be kept aside if there's an issue with North Branch?
Bank of America holds the funds. So where payment requisitions would come directly to me and Ann, and we would pay them out of the capital project fund. Now they're going to come to us. We're going to approve them, send them to Bank of America, who's going to initiate funding to North Branch. There will always be
their escrow? Because I mean,
like
the
a-
way I see escrow is like if I
a
hire an
mortgage.
attorney,
Yeah.
I give
like a
you
mortgage.
$2,000. Oh, so it's
Yeah.
like a
It's
mortgage.
like a
Yeah.
mortgage
So this is
Same
it's like
concept.
different.
Yeah.
than-
Same
so who
concept.
funded the escrow?
Bank of America, they're the lender.
So our loan,
Oh,
our
so
loan is
I
with-
thought it would be
Yeah, that's
North.
where
I
our loan
thought
money
the escrow would be North Branch putting in money just like in case they default or something. We're us requiring.
They have a
it from them.
performance. They have a performance bond that protects them in that
Okay.
instance.
Okay. Any other questions for Corey?
Nope, that was a helpful update. And
Yes, thank you.
A point I would make, so let's look at where we are in place and time. So we have 2 meetings in June to get this right, because we need to get all these numbers finalized, and we have a handoff in our office, right, with Corey leaving at the end of the year. There's sort of that handoff to Doug as he comes in. So we really need to keep our communication flow open and clear, because there's a lot of little moving parts here to get right.
I've
And so-
committed to supporting Doug in any way that I possibly can.
But you should keep at us with questions about these things, because this isn't just a normal school year. It's a project and a project and a project. So we want to make sure that we get all of this done and done correctly.
Actually, I do have one more question. On the year-to-date expenditures, the
Mhm.
column that says period expenditures, what is that period? Is it month to date or what is it? Because there's a separate year-to-date expenditure column, but there's no definition of the period here like I see on the town reports.
Where are you at?
It's the second column that's the year-to-date
Can I just look?
year-to-date expenditure status
Oh,
report.
period would be
Period.
because our system works in periods 1 through 13 for the year. So 12 months, you have
So it's
13.
bi-weekly.
You can do governmental accounting and stuff in the 13th period, but so 1 through 12 represent the months. So that's what the period expenditure would represent. This is what's been paid in period 11, which is May.
Okay, so this is period. So it's May. The definition is a month.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Corey, before we leave it, and I know you have to go, but I just put up the year-end projects.
We've adjusted this since.
Can you just update the board on what this is? Because this is one more moving part that we got to keep track of here.
So these are things for consideration at year end for fund balance, and it's noted on the financial statement as well as assigned fund balance. Assigned. So replacement of the gator, which is a piece of equipment that athletics and grounds uses. The one they have is on its last legs, and it kind of has been heading that direction for the past several years since I've been here. So putting that on for replacement so they have that to use. The CHS booster pump, which has been ordered, the water pressure in CHS is just insufficient. So this would fix that, but that's going to come 100% back from impact fees. So it's going to cost us $53,000, but we're going to get that back in revenue. Based on the event in December, the blue light mass notification system, I've applied for a grant through New Hampshire Homeland Security to see if we can get that paid in full, but that will be installed at all three buildings as a warning system to not enter in the event of a crisis. The bus gate, I think we've decided to eliminate that off the list.
How old is that bus gate?
Original.
Original. I wasn't there when I was there
Yeah.
10 years ago.
No, it's from what Dave said. I believe it's original.
It's a bus gate.
Dave said the bus gate.
They never used it before.
Yeah.
It was pushed back. Now
And
it's on an automatic thing.
It's honestly been broken, and it's been open for a majority of this year, and we've had absolutely no problems.
No.
So the thought in taking it off is why make the expenditure if we can manage it without it.
Our intent is to clearly label that entry off talent as school bus only, and then to, just let it be. It's not been an issue. So spending 20 grand on a gate.
Can you throw up a sign, "No, do not enter" on the exit part too? Because last week I saw like 4 people coming in the exit part of
It's
campus.
already signed as wrong way, don't enter. But the same thing happens on the highways. People just get on the wrong thing. But you're right. You're right, Liz. It is dangerous.
It's very dangerous.
And the last piece is the stage elevator at LMS, which is broken and has been put out of commission. So we need to do that. Dave is actually on it to try and get that replaced sooner.
I'm assuming there's no space to build a ramp or anything like that to make it
With
accessible.
we were talking about it, but with the standards for this much
Would be
lift
like
per
this?
foot, like
Yeah.
the ramp would be
not
through the music room and down to Jen's office.
You have to, what is it? 1 inch per 12 inches. So the slope of it is such that your ramp is way too long.
And that's why the lift is in.
So this list will adjust as we go. Like I said, there's already been some changes to it. So I'll continue to provide it on a bi-weekly basis.
And I wanted Corey to mention it because we have the end of the year. These are things that we just have recognized we need to address. But keep in mind, 53.5, which is the booster pump, and 22.158, the blue light system. Those are both grant funded. So even though they're included in this total, but they're offset by the revenue. So
is the grant secured?
Not yet.
Okay,
Just
so
applied for it.
The
Maybe not.
impact fees are.
the impact fees are secure.
Impact fees are
The
secure.
select board have approved those.
they have approved that.
They have
Okay,
approved those.
fantastic.
And Captain Scotty has said it's almost a given. It's just a matter of asking for this, and these systems are typically funded by that grant. So he feels very confident that that would be available to us.
What about the GMS night locks, the security locks?
I have to go down there. I want to talk to Maura about looking at the different types of doors, because there's two different types of one that goes into the floor and one that goes onto a door frame. So I want to make sure I know the exact
I'm
numbers of
wondering
what
if
I'm
they
looking
should be
for.
on this list.
I can add that in, especially anything you can think of that we can definitely include in the list and get done. So I need to excuse myself.
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate the
Anything
update.
else for Corey? I guess not. Go ahead, Corey.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. That brings us to superintendent.
No. We're back up to
Community.
Oh, community input. I'm sorry. Yes.
There we go.
But we also need to open the link,
But
right?
he also needs to open that.
I heard it.
One of his 65.
Oh my
tabs at
God,
the
he's
top.
got.
I can read
So
the
many
letters.
tabs.
Correspondence.
Oh yeah. Why don't
There
you
you
read
go.
correspondence and I'll try to
Oh, is this correspondence or community input?
correspondence first.
Correspondence.
Hopefully Mike will be back to open one of those many tabs.
I received 2 letters this afternoon. One from Nicholas Kuchar, and he was unable to come to the meeting tonight, and he would like to address the 8th grade moving situation. They should have been the notice about tonight's meeting should have been sent out yesterday at a minimum to allow time for families to make plans so they can attend. My daughter is going into 8th grade next year, and their family will be directly affected by the decision. He voted yes because he thought it was a summer project. If he had known it was going to be dragged out through the year, he never would have voted for that. And he has a few problems with the middle school communication and after-school activities. Sometimes they squeak them in at the end of the day, and how is that going to happen at Campbell? And even when you email the teacher to ask, you do not get a response because obviously they're working. I've heard multiple times that you always get a response, but in fact you do not. I love and respect your teachers who are all great, but that said, communication expectations are broken and not fair to parents and students. The expectation is to tell our children that X activity is canceled today, often late in the day, and then the child to build character. It is supposedly to relay message to themselves from a school with no cell signal, and heaven forbid they use their phones. This system does not work. I'm not teacher bashing. I respect teachers. This is a system problem. I have many more concerns, but the meeting is starting, so I'm tuning in. Well, I hope you can come in person next time. And this one is from Stephanie Silver.
Was that sent to the board?
It was at,
I didn't receive that either.
it was at 5:19.
We got the Kuchar, but I don't think we got the.
Yeah, your second one.
It says to the board
That's during our meeting. We
at 3:19. This one from Stephanie. She said she sent it to everybody. I'm unable.
It says
Oh,
to
to-
me. It was only sent to you.
Oh, it was only sent to me.
Yeah.
Oh, then I guess I can't read it.
We'll get it to everybody.
It's sent to Dr. Jetty, Mrs. Grantham, Mrs. Thayer.
Can you forward it around?
Yeah, I'll forward it right
Is
now.
that the 7 questions?
No,
Oh.
there's a 7 question. I didn't get that one. This one, I'm not allowed to talk. Can I?
We haven't had a chance to read it yet.
Okay. It's just about the 8th grade thing.
Okay.
I'll save it for next week. Or at the
Or
end,
later.
end of the, all right, at the end of the next one. I will send it right now.
Just for the record, I'd love to hear it, and I think it's more of a board policy thing that we have this in place where we can't
Sure,
read
this
this.
is agenda items, but it was also received today at 3, so we haven't had a chance to read it yet.
Well, we just read one at 5.
It was probably received when you received the email when I was
Sent
reading.
one.
That's
I understand.
That's when we got the information. If it's addressed to the board, I'm sure they meant for the board to hear.
But the one that we're talking about is not addressed to the board. It was just addressed to Liz. Right. Yeah, it just says good
It says
afternoon. It says
forward.
good afternoon.
I don't.
Yeah,
It's
you
to
can forward.
you and it says good afternoon. It doesn't say dear board.
Well, if she sends it again during the meeting, I guess I can read it after
Well, you
we
can
talk
forward
about
to
it.
the board so that we can. Okay. Community input? Oh, I'm sorry. Was that all for correspondence?
Yes.
Okay. Community, and anyone here?
I have community input.
Okay.
But I thought that they were gonna do a presentation first, so I don't know if I should wait for the presentation.
It's up to you. I know that there are a lot of questions, and I think a lot of the questions and concerns will be answered in the presentation.
I'm hoping to be able to answer.
Yeah.
Okay, so can we do community input after, or?
Yeah,
Yes.
we have two
We have
sections.
one.
So we have one
Yep.
now, and then we have another one at the end. So if you'd rather just wait, that's fine too. Yep. I just wanted to make sure everybody had a chance to be heard. All right. So, is there anyone in the Google Meet?
Let's take a look. Thought I was in it, but I got logged out. And it's me again.
I'm going to join that
Brian
one of
did.
these times.
Brian did.
Okay.
Brian did, yeah.
Did he? He didn't play his recorder for us.
He did.
Keep waiting.
Tara, Tina.
Okay.
So I'll join in again at the end.
All right. Thank you.
Heidi. I'll send it to Michelle.
Just lost the agenda.
Just like school board.
Is it?
Um,
I don't want to get it
Sorry,
again.
everyone.
Too many emails.
Here we go. All right. So, I guess with that, I will close community input. We will have another public input session at the end of the meeting. We did correspondence, and so that brings us to superintendent comments.
Thank you. So last time I brought forward the general assurances, and we have those here to sign. Reminder to the board and to the public, it's a lengthy document that comes from the state relative to complying with all the federal laws that reference the money that we get. Each page of it requires the superintendent to initial and the board chair to initial. There's 17 pages here. It's all standard. It's the same document that we've received each year. And the board, the State Department of Ed has asked that the board chair sign it because in the past, they only had superintendents signing it, and they felt it was important that the board understand exactly what we're committing to with this. So I don't know if you have any questions for me or things that you want to know about the document. I'd be happy to try to answer.
We had a question for internal controls and the whole COSU framework and all that. I don't recall the answer to that.
Which number was
do.
that? Do you remember?
Was that the question I asked about the policies that we had?
No, so this is specifically regarding internal control where it says under page 9, it says the subrecipient must establish and maintain effective internal control, apply to general standards, including COSO and others. And I had raised that as a point.
If I can, the federal government had sent us last, in 2020, a whole criteria, and it's like a 30-page policy, and it covers all of that, which the board had approved.
You
when we
said
brought-
last time it was
Yes.
on all, everything, all these inventory management,
Right.
time, effort monitoring, allowable costs, all under federal funds
It's
policy. Is that
policy
what you're talking about?
DAF. I believe it's DAF. And that has, it's so long, it was, and it's all law. So it covers all of that.
So I guess with that, I'll ask for a motion to approve the superintendent and the board chair to sign the general assurances. Anybody would like to make such a motion?
I'm just researching DAF.
Okay.
You're right, this is a long policy.
I'll make a motion that we authorize this school board chair to sign the general assurances. Is that the right?
And the superintendent.
And the superintendent.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Andrew's still.
Yeah, I'm not going to be
voraciously
supportive of it
reading
until I digest DAF. So,
Do
but
we have
it's
time to wait for our next meeting?
So let me,
When is this due?
these are due to the state June 30th. So you have plenty of
Yep.
time if you want to wait and take this up on your June 1st meeting.
Move back.
The only thing I would,
sure I'll withdraw my motion.
If I just could request, if there are questions about it, get those to me prior if you can.
Yeah.
Just so that we can try to get those answered. Because if it's a deeper dive into something, I don't want to try to do that on the fly,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, but we'll bring these back.
Okay.
Not a problem. So next is the authority to sign. And so typically the school board has granted the superintendent and business administrator the ability to sign all Office of Business Management forms, contracts, grants, et cetera, on behalf of the school board. And so that's been an annual motion that's been made. And if you click the link, it goes to the motion that has been presented each year. I'm just taking a look at it.
This does not include the manifests, right? So we still need to come
You
in and sign the
absolutely have to sign the
manifests.
manifests. This is if we have a contract with a vendor or if we're receiving a grant, applying for a grant, we have that ability to take that action.
And you can hire.
That's a separate
That's fine.
motion.
Okay.
Yep. This is
Hire
just
over the summer.
the signing of those contracts and agreements as worded.
Is there notification when things like that happen? Or is
Usually it comes to, we present it at the next meeting.
next meeting? Okay.
All right, so I'll make a motion to authorize the superintendent and business administrator sign all Office of Business Management forms, all contracts, and all grants on behalf of the Litchfield School Board effective July 1st through
June 30th.
June 30th through August 30th.
No, I'm sorry. So this is
is
typically
for the
an
whole year.
annual motion. So
This isn't just
it's
a summer.
already in effect, Michelle,
Yes,
from
and
last
this will
year,
go in effect July 1st.
and it'll go
Okay.
through June 30th of 23.
Okay. So I'll make that motion effective June,
For the next
July
fiscal year.
1st
For the
through
next
June
fiscal year.
30th of 2023.
And we get to review them?
Yes.
I second.
Okay, any other questions or
Doing the
comments?
authority to sign, not the hiring one. Right?
Oh, no, I was, we have a new person coming in still.
Yeah.
So does this include payments on behalf of the board to the middle school projects and?
Doesn't say that.
Office of Business, yeah.
I-
It would.
It's sign
I
off on
think-
forms,
It's vague.
contracts, and
That's why I'm
grants.
bringing it up, right? I mean, I
But
think
it doesn't
this.
say invoices.
It doesn't say, but forms is,
Invoices.
Right.
Right.
And notice that these are things that say the Litchfield School Board needs to sign. So if it,
Right. Those
If it was a
payments are
grant
coming out of the
application
district, not the board.
right, so you're basically giving us that authority to sign on your behalf. So I'm going back to the invoice question. I mean, we get invoices all the time.
know.
Yeah.
And we pay, and that's why you get the manifest, because you're signing that you've seen what we've done and have the right to
If you're
question
writing
any.
a check for $1 million, I'd like us to.
Well,
I mean,
it's already
the
approved
challenge
by
with the manifest is, as you can see here, there's what, 500 pieces of paper there?
I've signed it many times.
Well, I know, but I don't have
Yes.
time to go through it and
I know,
understand what's
I
in
know.
there.
When is that available? So if we wanted to go and have some extra time to look at that, when is that all compiled and ready
By
for
3
view?
o'clock in the afternoon on the day of the meeting. Because things come in all the time, so she can get them paid.
Yeah.
Can we change that to make it
The checks
same?
don't go out until the treasurer signs them.
And until the manifest is signed.
That's right.
So nobody's,
Oh,
So the checks don't
not
go
a
out. We
single
haven't
person
paid
in there has
those.
been paid, other than
Right.
payroll, maybe.
Well, payroll's different.
Right.
That's different. You can't hold people from being paid. But invoices, the checks don't go out till the board signs that manifest. That manifest is signed, we cannot send out the checks. And we don't typically.
Could it be that we do it, and again, maybe it's just a switch of the day rather than being 3 o'clock on Wednesday to being 3 o'clock that Friday? So then the board has Monday, Tuesday.
Wednesday instead of
well, in the
Friday?
summer, it has to be signed by 3 o'clock on Friday.
It may also put a pinch on the administration to put it all together. I don't know.
I don't know.
Why don't I
Let's
make
have
a
a new BA
suggestion?
coming.
If we can get an electronic list as something that we can live, it will be a live document maybe that they can look at, and when it's up, it'll be updated anytime something is entered into it, and then you can We could link
Fabulous. That's fantastic. So
Would
if I'm
that
looking at a
help?
live list and we know what's in there and that
Right.
reconciles to this as I'm looking at this and sign, yep, I know what it is. Yep, I know what it is.
Right,
Yep, I
right.
know what it is. Perfect.
Okay, let me I'll put that down on my notes and we'll work on it.
Okay.
Is that I can't guarantee it'll happen next time, but
No, that's fine.
okay.
That's fine. That would ease my
Okay.
anxiety about that.
It's a lot to sign off on.
It's a lot to sign off on,
To
yeah.
review it. Okay.
What was your other question answered?
About LMS payments as an
Yeah.
example. I think the word forms is a bit vague. So I would just be sensitive to the board voting in favor if this isn't crystal clear without a reword. If the intention is to direct the SAU to make payments,
Mhm.
right,
Mhm.
with the board approval to do so, I think it should be spelled out here.
But we authorize the payments when we sign the manifest. So the items in the manifest are not
Covered by this one.
covered by this motion.
By
The-
forms, do you mean like grant submissions or?
Exactly. And notice it says Office of Business Management forms. So I guess I'd have to get some specific examples of what forms we sign.
For the auditor. For
Yeah.
GASB, government accounting and things like that.
The contract that we had for a speaker that came in that was above a certain number, we signed off on that speaker before we paid him.
Yeah, but I also, the thing I'm hesitant on is like the school had a speaker. That's not really the board authorizing the school to have a speaker. So this is a different motion because I think this is about authority you have to apply for things as a board that you're authorizing the BA and the superintendent to do on your behalf. The schools doing, speakers or, we enter into
I get it.
that stuff is just, and
Your
that.
question was about like making payments to.
Just as an example, I mean, I read this and to sign all Office of Business Management forms. So what's a form? A form could be an invoice, right? A form could be.
I don't see a form as an invoice.
It could be. That's why I just want to be clear as to what.
Let us get you that clarification because right now the motion from last year holds, right? So we're okay. And
June 30th.
Until June 30th. So we'll come back and give you exact examples. A Office of Business Management form is such as, here they are. Contracts, I feel good, but I would not sign a contract with somebody if the board hadn't authorized, so Kyle has a fee proposal into us. We're bringing that back to the board because you need to approve it. Now, we'll sign it, but you need to approve it. So, on that case, there's a motion that authorizes us to do it, right? So, and then grants are, Mary and Corey work pretty closely. And there's a variety of grants. You've got your entitlement grants to competitive grants.
I agree with Andrew, the forms
Yep.
bag.
I think, given my newness, it would be helpful just to understand.
We'll get you
Thank
an exact example of what that means.
We'll go on to authority to hire.
Yes. So traditionally,
I'll withdraw my motion. Did I actually make a motion?
Yeah,
I
Okay. And I seconded, I withdraw my second.
so traditionally, when we get into the summer, remember that we have the one meeting in July. And so we need to be pretty nimble. I can tell you, I'll give you an example. We interviewed a candidate for the Special Services Director position Monday night and told the candidate, we're bringing you forward to the next round Wednesday afternoon. And when called Tuesday, they said, I accepted another position between Monday and Tuesday. That's how fast and furious people are getting gobbled up, especially in short marketplaces. So this gives the authority for me to offer the contracts. And I always bring them to you after the fact and say, here's who I've hired. So far, you've been pleased with the candidate pool that we brought forward, but I'm looking for the ability to offer the contract and get somebody signed, sealed, and delivered between June 17th when school lets out. Actually, I'm going to suggest that that's the day after your board meeting, right? So starting the day after that, I can make that offer, and that will go until August 29th so that we don't lose candidates.
excuse me.
They can't wait until board approval occurs, or we can have a boatload of
Zooms.
meetings, but that's going to be problematic with vacation times and everything else that we're trying to do in the summer. So traditionally, the board is granted that authority to hire over the summer.
I make a motion to grant the authority to the superintendent to offer contracts to new hires from June 17th, 2022 to August 29th, 2022.
I'll second.
So, question for you. What is the interview process like for candidates or for those that apply for positions during the summer months when we have limited staff?
So it's going to vary by the position. So you're already seeing that when it's a director level, a school principal, administrative level, we have a pretty collaborative process. Even in the summer on those, we would send notice out and say, if you're available, here's what we're doing. And staff will come in the summer. So that has been the case and the practice. Teacher candidates, it's a more scaled down version of that. It varies by school. So I know that some of the schools have department members who are involved. Others do not. It depends, if you're hiring, trying to think of an example. Right, and there is no other fax teachers that sit in on the team, right? So all those things are gonna vary. So it is gonna be dependent on what that position is. We try to be as collaborative as we can.
Of course. Would you ever be in a position where you are the sole person to interview a candidate and make the recommendation to hire?
Never happened.
Okay.
So I'll give you an example. Every teacher that you're going to see tonight has been recommended to me by the school. They've already done an exhaustive process at the school level. And then the principal makes the recommendation to me. Then I meet with the candidate. I would say less than 5% of the time, I thank the candidate for meeting with me and send them on their way without a job offer. And I call the principal back and say, hang on a second. I picked up on something in the process, right? I've caught a few things over time, and I just say, sure, we're not going further. But I'm like the last stop, if you would. And by and large, I trust my administrators and I trust our teams to recommend the right candidate. So that's the process that we follow.
Good. Thank you.
Trying to think of an example, Andrew, where I think in 4 years now, I have not hired a person without there being that level of scrutiny and process that's occurred. So I don't go out and hand pick people or.
I'm just suggesting that, again, the way this reads, technically, if there is somebody that we needed to act on the same day, you have the authority to do that, right? So.
I don't think you will.
Well, that was the reason for the question and to understand the process. Yep.
Anything else? Are we ready to vote? All right. All in favor of, all in favor of granting superintendent with authority to hire, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstain? 5-0-0.
So a couple of quick housekeeping things. So June school board meetings, remember that we have successfully moved the meeting from the 15th to the 16th. So that's in place. So it's on a Thursday night. We've reserved the room. Your calendars have been updated. So that's in place so that, why did we do it? So the middle school move up ceremony can occur and everybody can be there. So that's in place and it should be on your calendars. Memorial Day parade. So Margaret Parent sent over the notice that is linked there today. And I wanted to hurry up and get that to you because that's coming up. And so once again, you can see that our students are participating in the Memorial Day parade activities. It begins at the middle school and goes down to the old town hall in the historic district. The last reminder for you is the retirement tea is tomorrow. And so that should be on your calendars also. The school board chair is speaking at that. But we've got a significant number of retirees who are being recognized tomorrow. Our goal was to be on the lawn in the garden outside of Campbell again. The weather does not look like it's going to cooperate with us. So more likely than not, will be set up in the library at Campbell tomorrow for the retirement tea. Everybody's welcome to attend. It really has turned into a nice event. It's the board's opportunity to honor and recognize all the retirees. You've got people from 36 years to, it's a significant amount of time that are retiring. Most of them are from the middle school. But
we invite past retirees too, so they come back, and it's nice to touch base. Let's be able to catch up with Scott Thompson last year, and some of the other teachers and administrators. Bo usually comes.
And family are invited, so it really is a nice event. I believe that tomorrow Martha is doing most of the speaking because Jen has only known the retirees for a short period of time. It's hard to go too in depth. Martha has worked with them for a longer period of time. And I think Tom is coming back too. I think Tom's planning to show up, so we'll see. But anyway, it should be a nice event. Please join us for that.
I'll stay long because I'm going to be going to the academic awards for the high school at night at 6.
As a parent or a board member?
As a board member.
You guys got invites to that?
I did.
I went last year. I did not get one this year.
I invited myself. I went into guidance and invited myself. It's my favorite event. My kids aren't going to be there. I love it.
We, for some reason, it wasn't on my calendar, and nobody at district level got an invite. So
You got to go in and invite yourself.
I guess, but you have to know it's coming to invite yourself. So anyway,
Student told me.
just if anybody misses us tomorrow, it just wasn't on our calendar. So
Yeah.
I don't know if we're supposed to be there or not, but anyway.
So for the retirement tea, sorry, I was planning on going.
Yeah.
Who else?
I'm going. I usually go.
Anybody
I'll
else?
stop by for a few minutes.
So does that create a quorum?
I won't talk to you.
I may
I-
be there for the end. The
I think-
lacrosse game got rescheduled, so
I think there's a carve out in the policy for social events.
Okay. Just
Because I think it covers, and I would consider this a social event.
Okay.
Just don't look at me or talk to me.
So you're not coming to the tea, Liz?
If it makes Andrew nervous, that'll be
No.
No. I just want to make sure that
It's a social event. Have cookies and tea. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
I have to say goodbye to everybody.
But when is the academic dinner?
6.
Well, this is at
No,
3:30.
but I might
right?
need a nap after school.
Oh.
I work all day.
Nap. What is that?
I deal with 13-year-old girls.
All right.
So is that it for you?
That's it for me.
All right. That brings us to school board comments. I noticed that you put the VFW Loyalty Day Awards.
Yes.
Liz and I were both able to go.
Awesome.
It was really nice. It was held at the VFW. in
One of
Hudson.
the 2 VFWs in Hudson.
And three district employees were honored. Bob O'Neill from GMS, who I got to meet for the first time, who was fantastic.
Yeah.
And then Kathy Citalo from LMS and Mike Perez from CHS. So it was a really nice award ceremony. They had the ROTC
See
students there doing the colors. So that was fantastic. It was an honor to go and
It
celebrate.
really was a nice time.
We were able to celebrate, educator. It was more about, obviously, pride in America and education and passing that on to our students. So it was really nice to go.
There was a person in the fire department who got recognized who's been
Yes.
fixing fire trucks and keeping them on the road.
Yep, Steve Doobie
Yes,
is
him.
his name, who's with the Hudson Fire Department, but also, I guess,
It's back and forth.
has been back and forth.
So was this extended to the board or to yourself, or I mean,
It was, the board wasn't, I mentioned it at previous meetings that I was going, and I think I forwarded the invitation. I asked if anybody wanted to join me.
I wasn't aware of it.
You might have been out.
there.
Yeah. Actually, I
It
think
might have
you
been
were
that
out.
he
That was
left.
It could be the
that
meeting I
left
was
for
out.
surgery. Yeah. Okay. So sorry about that.
No, that's fine. Yep.
And then
Congratulations.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I wanted to congratulate the CHS musicians on their very successful, bittersweet from me anyway, as a parent of a senior Spring Pops concert last night. It was a small crowd, but boy, only 5 graduating seniors this year. It's a small music program, but small but mighty. It was pretty amazing. My daughter's graduating, and they were able to. They invited all of the since there are only 3 seniors in the concert band. They invited all of their cohorts back from back in middle school to come and play together one last time on the stage. So that was pretty touching. It was a great moment. And this weekend is the musical review at CHS, 7 p.m. on Friday and 7 p.m. on Saturday. So I'm attending one of those.
There's good air conditioning on Saturday.
Right. And there was something else, but
Tara and I were
So many great
fortunate
things.
enough.
Yeah,
we
what's
did
going on?
We did the
project.
senior project evaluations. Thank you for the invite,
It was
Mr.
awesome.
Benoit,
That was the
Mr.
thing.
That was it,
Sika.
yeah. It was awesome.
That
it was
was
your
phenomenal.
first time,
It
and
was-
you knocked your socks off.
Oh my gosh.
I
was
cried a little at
so
one of them.
impressed. I know. I was
did.
so impressed. So impressed. Just the learnings and how the students were able to pivot on their projects, when they were overcoming challenges. And, certain kids just realized, one of them was like, I just realized I needed to reorganize my garage to be able to do this project, so just good life lessons learned there. But they were just amazing presenters. I was so impressed.
Having known some of these kids because they were in between my two sons, a few of the kids I know who have struggled socially, emotionally, to see them talk about something, you wouldn't think this person had a care in the world talking about what they did. It was absolutely amazing. And I don't have enough good things. And I will be, if you invite me, I will come.
Yeah, I wasn't able to make it to be on one of the panels, but I did make it to senior night, and I was able to talk to every senior. I think I got them all, and I was struck too by the passion and the energy that they had for these projects.
Learning.
Public speaking is never an easy thing, but I was able to go up to every student and engage with them and see how excited they were to present what they had done and what they had learned. So kudos to Noah Benoit and Nick Sika for pulling that all together. I was also really glad to see that the underclassmen got a chance to
That's
to
important.
see the presentations.
That was new this year.
Yeah,
That's
I love
fantastic.
that. That's great.
Nice.
So, job well done.
So many great
And
things
congratulations,
happening.
seniors.
And Andrew may have mentioned the elementary concert last time. Or
Oh,
did
yeah.
you not? I don't know. I wasn't able to go, but I tell you, I was listening to that in my neighborhood, walking my dog.
The video you
And-
sent that was this big. That I
It
couldn't-
was
Sorry.
Oh my gosh, that
trying to make it
got me to cry because the whole theme was around friendship, and it was just amazing. So
They did a great job.
Great stuff.
I'm really
going
excited
on.
to see what's coming out of the elementary school with the music program.
Yeah.
And that's what we've said all along is we really need to build it. And
Miss Magoon's doing a great job.
She is.
Amen.
Speaking of
I
music,
got home
program,
late last night, and Claudia's like, "Where were you?" I said, "There was a concert at the high school." She goes, "There was a concert last week." I go, "There's a concert every week, I think, right now." So
I
Busy time of year.
also may have crashed the mother-son movie night or whatever they call it, magician night. I may have gone in there for an hour or two on our way out of my meeting. And the music teacher was there. She was taking pictures.
Yep.
And the kid, my son volunteered there, one of my sons, for the concessions. I said, "How was a magician?" And this kid my son is a Debbie Downer. He's like, "Not bad." For a 17-year-old to say it wasn't bad. Were you there, Emma? No, it was actually really cool to see when we were in the PTO. We started the mother-son movie night because I felt left out when all of these men are dancing off with their daughters, and I'm home with Buzz and Woody, not having anything to do with them. And it's amazing how far it's come.
It's a great PTO. I mean,
Yeah.
we've always had a very
Yeah.
strong PTO at GMS, and they've always done a great job.
I introduced myself to them too.
Yeah.
So we're still on the school board, right?
Yep.
Just a couple of things from my side. I'll try and be as brief as possible. I'd like to get an update on where we stand with rescheduling our public retreat and some of the topics that we had talked about back in March to be added to that retreat, because I still think they're very important.
Right.
I don't know where that falls.
So we did not reschedule a retreat because the board kind of made it clear you didn't want a retreat out of town. You wanted a meeting here. And so what we did is we had Bill Preble came and presented here at a meeting. The next meeting we have Barrett and Will from the School Board Association coming to do a training. So on June 1st at your next meeting, they will be here. They will present their presentation on what it means to be a good board member and what the laws are, et cetera. So the training that we were going to do in the retreat will be done here on the cameras in the public eye.
Are we starting earlier?
No, I think it's regular time. And they will answer any questions that you have and so forth. So the packet that you already provided for that retreat, they'll be here to go over that with
So
you.
it's just separated over a few meetings. I mean, ultimately, what I'd like to do is by the time that the school year wraps up, so over the next few weeks, ideally, we have direction on what this board's decision is on participating in community forums. I'd love to be able to get a decision on social media and what our stance is for posting quick summaries of our meetings and just being more publicly aware.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think if we could, we have a lot on our June 18th or 16th agenda already, but if we could tack that on, a discussion about that at length, we could talk about.
I think we need a discussion on our goals to relook at those. And I
This
think
is
we
why
need
I
a
need a
discussion
nap
on the
after work.
communication plan too.
Yeah.
So the administrative team is having a retreat at the Live to Learn Academy, which is the week after your June meeting. So, school will end on Thursday now. And the following week, Monday through Thursday, I think, is when we're hosting the Live to Learn. Mary will give you more details on this when she comes. But so the admin team will be in our retreat. Our goal is to take the school board goals and draft out the proposed school goals for next year based on the goals that the board set in the document. Right. So, yep. So Tara, I think the goals, I think the board goals are done. What we're going to do is come in and say, and here's how we interpret the next step to be. And what is it that GMS will do, LMS, CHS, and district-wide. So you already had the other pieces. We owe you an end of the year report on how we achieved the goals that we did last year. We did the mid-year update, but we need to get you a June report. So we'll do that at the retreat. So I'd suggest that we hit that in July because it'll give us a chance to form what it's going to look like and to get it into you.
And we
is there anything from the retreat we've missed? We have the Will Preble, we have Will.
I do feel like, however, since you were not here when we developed the goals, I feel like we should have goals as like one session, at least one point on one of our meetings. So at least, if there's anything from a school board perspective that we need to update or kind of rethink, I think that would be a good opportunity.
Before they get it.
Yeah.
Well, so what we could do then is on the June 17th meeting, or 16th meeting, sorry, we can
revisit them.
Revisit the goals.
Yes.
Let's add that to the agenda, Michelle. That's perfect because then if there are tweaks and adjustments or, hey, we missed something or whatever, we can hit that at that time.
Yeah. And then I agree with Andrew. We should have a conversation about moving forward.
I think we should have another meeting if we're adding all these things.
Well, that's my point, right? It's already been 2 months at this point since we've initially had the discussion, and I'd like to move forward with something so we can get direction. And anyway,
So I personally would not be adverse to having an actual retreat, but just have it in town. On a different day.
call it what you want. Call it a regularly scheduled meeting on an odd day. I don't know.
Well, and that's the question. Do we want to schedule another meeting? June is chock full of events, and I know I'm busy as a parent of an 8th grader and a senior this year. But we have July 1st. We could add that discussion on and kind of tackle it.
I just don't think June is possible
I don't either.
for a separate meeting. But I would be open to coming in over summer.
Well, we already have a meeting on July 6th.
Right. What was July 1st? Nothing.
That's a Friday.
Nothing at all. Yeah.
Could it be the focus of the July meeting?
Well, keep in mind that people are going on vacation and stuff.
I'll be here.
Who will not be
Well,
here on
July-
July 6th? I thought we adjusted the calendar
Yeah, I'll
so
be
that
here.
we
Yeah,
were
I'll
all
be
there.
I'll be here.
Right?
Yeah.
We'll be here. So can we make that the focus of that meeting is kind of tying up all of our retreats?
We're not here.
That'd be fun.
You
with me.
here?
You better be here. Does that make sense?
And then other
So, but-
anything
But
else.
what
that's
are the
critical.
items to tie up from?
Well, the communications, the outreach, community
Got it.
dialogues, kind of things.
Yep.
I'd like to get a calendar down of events and forums and.
Well, we have
process.
community forums on the school board. The school board. calendar.
They're on your calendar. We
Well, the
map
forums
those
are,
out,
but
but
we had talked about, I
Like the
mean,
Republican Committee, the
Outreach,
Democratic
right, we
Committee,
talked about
veterans
nonprofits.
meetings.
So I want to,
Beers with Liz.
I think we need to have a process for communicating with the board if you want us to, come and explain
Not
things.
just the board. If you're
Yeah.
looking for a
And
representative from the
district.
But
district to come speak
Taking it
on
a step
particular
further,
topic.
right? It's also, is this board interested in having skip level interviews, right? What's the board's decision? So
Those
meeting,
are all things that
right,
we
meeting
talked
with
about.
the LEA and the LSSA to start to, bridge any gaps there, those types of things.
so what do you want from me on that? I guess would be the question, or from Michelle. Do you want us to just schedule you time to have that dialogue? So you want to see an agenda item to have that discussion, or
I think
are you looking
we need to carve
for?
out time to have that conversation as a board.
Agreed. And everybody just come with their ideas.
Yep.
Is anybody around the last week in June? Are people going away the last week in June? I just want to get it over. But then you can.
All right, so I think we have direction on that.
Do we?
I don't have direction.
I thought I just heard July 6th, no?
Yeah, July 6th, just carve out.
But we have other stuff going on
So
July 6th,
on
don't we?
the July 6th agenda, you want an opportunity to have a dialogue about, and I think telling us exactly what, so we can make sure we
Yeah.
capture it.
Yeah.
Bullets.
Communication.
Yep. Goals. Revisit goals.
Goals are going to be
That's already done.
earlier.
Goals are
so
on
they
the-
can then plan them after.
Yep. You'll get goal reports, I hope, on the 6th.
Okay.
This is July 6th, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think communication covers it as a broad
Right.
Yeah.
label for the conversation. However, I think there are some parts underneath it.
Correct.
Social media, skip level meeting, all those different things that are going to be part of the communication conversation. But
As we think of things in the next couple of weeks, maybe we could just email them to you guys. Just
Or do a Google Keep or
Thoughts?
something like
I guess
that.
I'm
Or
not
just
going on
add-
vacation
we
this
could
summer or
start a
moving.
Google Doc and just put things on the Google Doc.
So
When are you gonna
I'm
be
gonna suggest
I
a
don't know yet. I
slightly
need
different way of
time.
proceeding. So Tina, Liz, and I have formulated a standard meeting every other Friday. So the Friday before a board meeting, we are sitting down for an hour, Friday afternoon, to review the agenda, to do planning, to make sure that the board is having proper direction given on this. So what I would ask is that the board members email them as the chair and the board chair and say, this is what we want to see. This is how we want to see it added in.
And then we'll bring it to it.
And,
In
you know,
bullet form.
it's almost too late for the next meeting because that agenda is out. But it's not too late for the one after that. So this will help us with long-term planning. So does that make sense as the
Yes.
cleanest way?
Sure does.
Thank you.
Yeah. Great.
Just two other quick points under school board. Sorry.
No, that's
One,
great.
we had a non-public meeting on May 4th. Or was it last week?
The 11th?
The 11th.
The 11th. Yeah, we had a non-public meeting on May 11th, just as a point of disappointment, right? This board knew about that non-public meeting a week in advance, but public notice was only sent out a day in advance. Typically, the town uses that for emergency meetings. I just didn't think it was enough notice for the town to be aware that we were meeting. I'll leave it at that. And what's my second point? Oh, man. I should have wrote it
Did you
down.
hate
I hate that. I may have to come back to it. I forget.
All right. Thank you. I'm sure you'll let us know if you
I'm sure you
So I
will.
do have two agenda item suggestions, and I don't know. Like one I had mentioned before, learning gaps. That's when Mary's going to come next, right? How we're addressing the learning gaps. Okay, and then maybe July could also be a legislative review of like the last year. I don't know if
Like an update?
something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe
It's
even invite
been-
friends. I don't know if it's too much, but
This legislative session has been very active when it comes to education.
Mhm.
And it's still unfolding. There were two pretty significant bills that got defeated yesterday in conference. So like the Senate wanted one thing, the House wanted something different. They couldn't come to agreement and it got dismissed. So it's, in fact, our association, the Superintendent's Association, has called an extra meeting for Tuesday just to review where we are with all the legislation. So it's really been a very active and kind of remarkably different direction on things. So
There's a lot to update.
Yeah.
I recall what I was going to say.
Oh, here we go.
How could I forget? We have parents of eighth graders in the audience tonight, right? And I think they're here, and we're going to find out why they're here, because they're somewhat disappointed in the notification that was sent today at 3:30. I share in that because I was disappointed that that email went out, and it was very, even though it said this is what's proposed and what's being discussed in the body of that email, with the pamphlet that was provided, it felt like this is the decision, this is the direction. The board verbally talked about it and was socializing ideas about what are we going to do, right? But we left it at that. And this felt like the decision was made. This communication went out, regardless of what the body of the email said, saying this is what's proposed. So I'm certain you're going to hear similar feedback from the community tonight, and we're going to receive emails from it. I agree with them, right? Where that wasn't the decision of the board. And I just think it misconstrued what we discussed.
But I understand that concern, absolutely. With that, this is a school operations issue. It's not a policy or funding issue.
But we represent the taxpayers. There are our taxpayers telling us they don't want that.
I agree. I understand. And we haven't heard,
Oh, absolutely. I'm keeping my mouth shut.
No. I mean, we haven't heard the details of the plan. We don't know. I mean, there are a lot of concerns and a lot of absolutely valid concerns. And I'm hoping that those will be addressed. We've also talked about having parent information nights and student information nights and discussions on how we can best suit the needs of our eighth graders. So I feel like we haven't yet had the opportunity to do those things. So I just would encourage the board to to have an open mind and to listen to the ideas, and then we've shared our ideas. Parents will have an opportunity to just share their thoughts on how we can make this work best for our eighth graders.
What about our high schoolers that are giving up space in their building?
I think it's a valid point, right? But I think, the board and the administration in the past have been big on surveys, right? So why aren't we posting out a survey and soliciting feedback from all eighth grade parents, right? Or soon to be eighth grade parents, as well as high school parents that are impacted with this. So we understand kind of the community impact and we can put that fact-based information into any decision this board makes. Again, it just felt very directive and not that we're soliciting input from the public. It felt very much, this is what it's going to be.
See, I didn't take it that way at all.
I didn't either, but I also I have to temper that with, as much as we value parent input and we understand your concerns and we know that we need to work with parents and students to reach the best plan possible. Not everything is a survey. What would you like to have happen? In some cases, the administrators have to make a plan and have to make a decision, and it's not always a board decision to do that. So I just want to caution that
you work for the taxpayers, not for the administration.
I'm not saying we work for the administration. Okay. We trust our administration to operate our schools. You've said that in the past. We trust our superintendent.
You say it more than I do.
Well, I think there's going to be more to come here shortly, right? And so
I'm ready to.
Talking about, so could we get on?
I got the email.
The information that went out today was very at a glance, and I'm looking forward to hearing Ms. Grantham's presentation, because I know a lot more thought has gone into it than was sent out.
So the email does say that our administrative team is presenting a proposal.
That's right. It does.
I also will say that to speak to the timing concern, we had to follow our protocol and have meetings with our faculty, make sure that our unions were involved in conversation. So, we have had to make sure that we roll this information out correctly. And that brought us all to today. And that's in the middle of a busy, crazy end of the year schedule with things that are moving. So there's a million moving parts, but here we are. And we also sent it out to parents saying, come learn about the concerns. Right. And then we'll address concerns and we'll continue to address concerns. So really the intent was to let people know where we are and what we're proposing. And so here we are. So that brings us, I think, to LMS principal's report, unless there's anything else.
School board comments.
No, I'm waiting for Jen. No
Well-
pressure.
No pressure.
Are we doing the public meeting?
She didn't
I need
announce
to
you
make-
yet.
I need to
over
make
the
a
minutes.
motion to approve the public minutes from May 4th, 2022.
I second.
All in favor? Questions or concerns? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain? 500. All right, now we can have Ms. Grantham's much anticipated principal's report.
It's great to be here. And I look forward to really hopefully answering a lot of the questions and concerns, and want to address the parents and saying we're not intending to leave you out of the conversations of how we can help minimize the disruption to both students, teachers, and learning that is continuing to ongo under a construction project throughout the year next year. So I'm going to start by making that blanket statement and then kind of go into some of the details. I'm not going to read through my presentation tonight because there's so much to get into. You've had a chance to take a look at that. So I'm going to ask that we forward down. I'm going to skip over responsive classroom right now and go to what everybody really cares about, and I'll come back to responsive classroom. So the construction update is kind of where we are now. I just want to talk about this is a program and a process that I walked into in October. We were already under phase 1 of construction. Portions of that had already taken place. We lived through a roofing project this year that was supposed to be a 1-month project, but as supply chains and workforce demands were there, that 1-month project turned into something that stretched out through February. So October to February was our roofing plan. It wasn't the intent, but we worked really hard to try to minimize the disruption to student learning, to offer that opportunity for, movement within the building. When the roof sounds got really loud, we had that opportunity to relocate to the learning commons, to the cafeteria, to other places, so that learning could continue to happen under construction. So as we are looking at the construction that has been coming, that was voted in by the deliberative session in March, the conversations continue to flow and change and ebb and flow in regards to how long the project is going to be. I'm going to say I sit in weekly construction meetings, most of which goes right over my head in regards to ventilation systems. And I'm glad to sit into the meetings because I hear what's coming and what's going on. And my role and Mike's role in the meetings is to bring back to the education of the kids, because the reality is we are going to be a building that is under construction while in session for 180 school days with 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders next year.
All the year.
We don't know what the timeline is yet. It's a question, Liz, right now of waiting for the supply issues to be addressed, waiting for the phasing issues to come back with what supplies come in what order. And we're looking at ways that we can minimize the impact on our students and the learning and what needs to happen to make everybody be able to continue through the year next year. So that being said, there are still a million unanswered questions in regards to construction, when it starts, what happens, what's going first, which section of the building is going first. I know that Joe Campbell in North Branch has been getting all the subcontractors together, trying to figure out what things we can get in to get started on and how we can maximize the space that we have within our building to be able to, once again, minimize the impact on everybody concerned. So that being said, we as an administrative team have had, when I say hours and hours and hours and hours of conversations in our office, with our staff, with our administrative team at the SAU, with the facilities committee, as we have that weekly bi-weekly conversation, I think it is now, or monthly conversation. I can't even remember when it happens, but having those meetings where we're kind of addressing those concerns, addressing those needs as we take a look at what it looks like. We've run through lots of different iterations of possibilities. We heard last meeting that you all had, I believe it was, where you asked to get a quote and find out how much it would cost to bring back the portables. as an ideal circumstance. It's a short-term fix for a short-term problem. However, that cost for those portables ended up being, and I'm going to quotes from my mind, so I'm going to ask Mike to get the real ones out, but for a 4-unit portable system to be placed in the front of LMS again is a minimum of a 2-year lease, and has to be hooked up to the electric, hooked up to the, we'd have to bring back the gas and propane, build the ramp, and it's 2 years when we really hopefully are only going to need it for 1. And it's $550,000 for that 2-year lease. So when we looked at the cost associated with bringing those portables back, that was an exorbitant cost to the taxpayer, who again, we work for. And we want to make sure we're taking into account and making sure that we're being fiscally responsible with the decisions that we're making in regards to a project that was agreed upon and to come in within the budget and come in within the time frame. To bring a 6-bank unit, which would really help us to be able to get what we need to have happen, a 6-bank unit was $750,000.
Right.
So it's not a decision that we were just like, oh, never mind. We don't have portables. We'd rather just ship them up to the high school. That is not our goal in any way, shape, or form. So then it came to, how else can we mitigate this? I came from 2 other districts in my education career. I worked in Nashua and I worked in Hudson. And in Nashua, I lived through several buildings that were under construction while underway. And some of the options that they had in place were, I'm going to say, less than ideal in regards to learning environment and learning environment for kids and teachers. One of those being putting up temporary stanchion walls in the gymnasium, which would eliminate gym class and which would allow for the echo in the ceiling. And having 4 to 6 classrooms in that location, which would not be ideal for kids to learn and not be ideal in any way, shape, or form. And then we talked about how many rooms can we clear out by moving some classrooms within our building, whether it takes art and puts it on a cart, takes health and puts it on a cart, takes, what other classes did we talk about? Classes that don't require Spanish.
We could have done 1 language arts.
So finding all of these rooms, physical spaces, because what we need to be able to do is we need to be able to clear out, picture it this way, the 6th grade wing, where the 6th grade teachers are, those 4 classrooms being completely emptied of students and teachers and school items while it's under construction. Because I want you, if you've watched the video, to envision taking down all the drop ceilings, taking out all the pipes from the roof, fixing the gap that's at the ceiling, having a backhoe outside the windows, backfilling in the insulation at the bottom, would be very disruptive to having classrooms in those places ongoing while that construction is underway, whether it's before school, after school, how that occurs, it would be very disruptive. So having that wing of 6th grade not be able to be in their location at a time, we need another location in the school to move them to, which right now, for those of you that have been around, know that we don't really have that location within the school. Even with taking some of those unified arts classrooms, which are equally as important, I'm not questioning their importance in the structure of the school day, but even taking some of them and moving them to a cart, we don't have the physical real estate at LMS to count out between 4 and 6 classrooms in a phase. So then we started to have conversations about where could they go with the idea of the portables being cost prohibitive and off the plate. We started to have some conversations with where is there space in the district? And Campbell was built, from my understanding, to house 550. Is that the right number?
No, it's built for 600, and the highest population it ever saw was 550.
So we started to have conversations about, is there space at Campbell? Would this be something that would be, again, for a temporary fix, a manageable solution? What would that look like? So the conversations that we had there were how important it is to maintain these 8th graders as part of LMS. Their temporary location would be at Campbell for part of their school day. So what would happen is all 8th graders at LMS would arrive at LMS normal way that they do this year, whether it's by parent drop-off or whether it's by school bus. And they would experience, instead of having their UAs distributed through the day as they currently are, they would have both UAs the first 2 periods. The reason for that is because that would allow us to, again, have them physically in our building and work with our unified arts teachers to be able to have the access to those unified arts courses. And then they would have a travel time where they would head up to CHS between 9:12 and 9:30. Then they would have their core classes, so social studies, language arts, math, and science throughout the day. They would be in a self-contained wing at Campbell, which was originally designed to be the 9th grade academy, which is above the SAU offices, which is currently, I believe, the English wing and a science room, which would allow us to close off the doors there by the, what is that?
Faculty South.
Faculty South. Close off the wing there. There are bathrooms in that area, which would allow them to be self-contained. They would be able to come in and out the door by the SAU offices, so they'd have their own entrance and exit, and be within their own little wing, just as they are at LMS, just housed up there. Mrs. Thayer and I would still be supervising them. We would still be supervising the staff. We still would be on call for behavior concerns. Any behavior issues and things would still go through our offices. We would spend a portion of our day at CHS, walking around, walking through classes as we do now. And then they would have their own lunch. So that lunch is, Campbell would go back to having 3 lunches, which they've had in the past. And that 4th lunch would be an 8th grade lunch, which meets the 8th grade criteria for time, but would be physically in Campbell's cafeteria, but just with 8th graders. Then they'd have their last core class, and then they'd have their best part 2. So that is the schedule that we are looking at as least disruptive to everybody's learning, 5, 6, 7, and 8, as allowing them the same access to all curriculum that we have. Additionally, by putting best at the end of the day, that allows us to allow all of our 8th graders to continue to participate in all co-curriculars and extracurricular activities that we have, including sports, all club activities that we have. We would be able to have a bus transport them back to LMS for the 2:05 dismissal time and allow them to participate the same way they would in fall sports, in art club, in drama club, student council. All the things that we talk about and how important they are to our day would all still be available to them back at LMS. That being said, if you take a look at our plan, the 8th grade flyer that went out today up ahead.
You want the bigger version?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I did it separate.
My
I
eyes
think
are
it's
working.
separate, might be bigger
Let me get back
on
to
the
it.
agenda.
8th grade location one. There it is. This is the big version. Now you know what I was talking about when I said I couldn't read it.
So again, it would be a temporary location, and the really critical things that we need to consider are that they're still part of LMS, just with partial day temporary location at Campbell. This would allow us to also minimize the transitions for the 5th, 7th. So this, although this was advertised as 8th grade, it's really about all of our LMS links. All of our students are going to be impacted by the construction, and we're trying to minimize the number of times a student needs to move and figure out where their next class is within the day. Truly, for our 8th graders, this is going to be there. I hate to say the phrase, and I know parents aren't feeling this right now, but we're going to have a conversation about how they're going to be lucky because they're not going to have the sounds of the backhoe beeping in their outside their algebra room. They're not going to have the sounds of, hammering and nailing and things that are happening during a construction setting. So they're going to have that more tight learning environment. It's going to be really critical to us that we continue to maintain those relationships with staff, maintain those relationships with the unified arts classes, with all the clubs and activities that we have, and make sure that all IEP goals are met, make sure that all union contracts are met, including LSS and LEA. And part of the reason the advertisement or the information went out from Dr. Jetty today is that we're trying to be proactive in conversations to work through kinks before we publicize something as, oops, we sent something out and it's not at all what we're talking about. We kind of wanted to tick off some check boxes before we got to the point of giving a half plan to parents or a half plan to staff members. So we had a meeting today with the LSS and the LEA, as well as our 8th grade staff members, to kind of hash out what's working. What do you see about this plan that works for you? Is there anything that we didn't think of? And we plan on having additional meetings with our 8th grade parents in the coming weeks to hash out those concerns. We want those questions to come through. I have the 7 questions that are here that I'm hoping we're answering this evening. We want to be able to continue to work through. We know that this is not ideal. And I think one of the things that we talked about at our last staff meeting at LMS is we're going to ride the wave of construction with patience, flexibility, and grace, and understanding that we're all doing it with good intents. And the plan is that in the end of this project, we're going to come back with a school that is usable, that is healthy, that is set up to have the things that we as taxpayers have agreed to participate in, and to make sure that we are doing it with a minimal impact to the learning environment. Did I miss anything?
No, I think it's just important the board and the public understand a few things. So we have consulted with the Department of Education, and they've assured us as long as the students are getting the 8th grade program, meeting the 8th grade minimum standards, the teachers are supervised by the 8th grade administrators, and they are certified 8th grade teachers, then they don't care where the students are. They said you can have them in any building. They're not worried about the building from the DOE end. They said if you were changing the programming for the students or changing who was teaching them, then we would have to say, okay, you have to go through a school approval process. But just to be clear, we're not changing those things. So we have that on file from the department. I think, to sort of answer the question that's come in about, did we know about this back at the vote? We did not know about this back at the vote. Back at the vote, our intent was to do this as a summer project. And we said that it was going to trickle into September, October, which is what we were being told at that point in time. And then as everything got finalized after the vote, then we started hearing how we knew the the supply chain issues were going to cause this to take a little bit longer. We had no idea that it was going to trickle as long as it was. So, at this point in time, our goal is to minimize the amount of time. As soon as we can end this and have the 8th graders back at the middle school, we will do that.
No guarantees, though.
But there's no guarantees. And so, I would say we should think, the worst case scenario is the 8th graders that this plan that we're proposing is in place all of next year, 180 instructional
These kids
days.
have never had one school year, normal school year at LMS. No, once my rising senior, no, it's only our time. My rising senior has not had one normal year at Campbell. Those 8th graders have not had one normal year without a mask, without mandates, without separations. And who gives 2 UAs to 8th graders in the morning? Do you know what your afternoon is going to look like? Caged animals coming from an 8th grade teacher. You can't give, that is not fair to give the kids the fun stuff in the morning and say, study all afternoon. That's just the beginning of my list.
That's why we put best at the
But what
end.
about the kids that have remediation plans? They're not going to have anything fun to do.
They get that in the morning.
Can we call us Campbell Rocks?
Not yet. During community input.
That's why they get what in the morning, the UAs?
Let's
Right.
let Jen answer that question.
I think there's loads of concerns, right, that we need to vet, undoubtedly. One of the concerns that I raised is we still have parents that are dropping off and picking up their children because of real concerns with COVID, and increasing numbers is likely so. And here we are presenting a plan that has all students in the morning hours on a bus, which is against likely what some parents' wishes are, right? And how do we work around that?
So I have a question. What was there a third alternative plan considered, or was it just portables and then this? Because the portables, I mean, given that cost, it just seems it's not even feasible. That's like no way it won't fly. So I'm curious, were there other plans that were
So the other plans,
alternatives?
like I discussed, were taking and moving art and
Oh, yeah.
Spanish and to a cart, which we may need to do in addition to allowing for this relocation, because we are waiting for North Branch to give us that phase plan to be able to, again, we have equal number of questions that you have. We have the questions of how long, what time, how long is each phase going to take, how many classrooms are in a phase. These are all things that we still have questions regarding, because until the supply chains are clear, until when deliveries can be ordered and when the subcontractors can begin the construction to begin to do these things, we're asking those questions.
So having been principal of a 800 student high school that got rebuilt around an entire year, it actually started after April vacation and it finished the day before school started a year later, right? So we had April to June, and then with the entire next year and the entire next summer. And I will just tell you, having lived that, there were weekly decisions that were made. There were daily decisions that were made. They would come and say, okay, this is what's happened. This crew is able to show up. And so we're going to make this adjustment because we need to do the following. And we literally, I mean, I made hard hats for my faculty that said patience, flexibility, and a good sense of humor, because that's what it took to get through that project. And we were constant communication, constant reinforcement that we're keeping our parents informed, keeping our faculty informed. It just takes that in order to get through a project like this. And we had the same level of conversation where, boy, it'd be really nice if, so our corollary would be, it'd be really nice if the locker rooms could be renovated and we could gain those 2 rooms. It would be really nice, but that may not happen. The phasing of it may not be that those rooms come online first. Because other things have to occur. So it's just the nature of this sort of thing. And it's totally not what we envisioned when we got into it because of the supply
teachers
chain.
to travel back and forth. If you decide Jessica Rec can be in school, she can go to stay at LMS for the day.
So actually when we met with the faculty, our proposal is that the eighth grade team report to Campbell and stay at Campbell. So they would not be traveling back and forth because the students would go to the UAs. And part of the problem
That's how they're going to stay connected to LMS is 2 UAs, be part of the community.
You lost me.
You keep saying that they're going to be part of the LMS community, but they're only going to have 2 UAs in the building.
No, wait a minute. You just asked me about 8th grade teachers. So I'm confused.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Is Jessica Rec going to be asked when you said hard hats and flexibility? English can stay.
So the core teachers,
Always will
English,
be
math, social studies, science will be at the high school. Yep. And the problem is the UA staff, if you tried to have, so let's say we wanted the 8th graders to go straight to Campbell in the morning and they would spend their entire day there. You would, first of all, you're now adding a gym class to the Campbell gym.
Oh, I understand.
You're adding
that
an art class.
completely. I 100%.
So that didn't make sense. And you couldn't get all those staff back to the rest of the UAs at the middle school. So that's why it
So
was.
the UAs, we can't send them back for last period so they can have a UAG period? Spread it out.
If you want to challenge us to think about that, we can put brain power into it. I think we're going to find that there are other dominoes that take effect on this.
I think that was one, if I remember correctly, that was one of the iterations that we looked at, because I agree with
Worked in middle school for a long time.
Liz. You've known me for 4 years before I came here working in Hudson. It's not a decision that's taken lightly. It's one that we have worked through. Mrs. Thayer and I have sat and gone through, I'm going to say 50 different schedules, 50 different possibilities. How can could we keep them here? Is there any way possible that we could keep them physically under our roof while under construction and move people around? And
It breaks my heart.
It breaks my heart. We don't have the
And
real
it's
estate.
too bad we can't move the 5th graders because the 5th graders do belong at GMS as far as I'm concerned.
There's really no room at GMS.
That's a different conversation.
And if you think about the real estate, the available real estate is at Campbell. So, moving 5th graders back to GMS is so stressed right now. I don't know how the heck we could ever do that. And I certainly don't want to move 5th graders to Campbell.
No.
That's a whole different conversation. So our proposal was 8th grade because they're darn close to being there anyway. And that was the reason why that
Well,
was
every
the group.
year that they're there. Can I ask, have we considered, and can you let us know, have you thought about postponing construction till next summer?
Yes, when everything's here.
So
I'm asking, I don't know what the dominoes would be involved with the contracts that we have with North
Saving the
Branch.
stuff.
Would we still be able to
Pricing.
have them? What that looks like,
Nobody will guarantee
however.
pricing for a year out.
So
Yeah.
I'll tell you right now, you're going to add significantly to the pricing because this has already been bid. I mean, granted, I guess you could get all the material in and store it on site, but it's the labor costs, and where are labor costs going to be in another year. And then North Branch has already bid this for a schedule.
But they won't give it to us. They don't know.
Well, hang on. So yes, they have not given us a day-by-day schedule, but they have secured subcontractors. There's an electrician who's saying, I'm going to work in Litchfield this summer. I don't know what I'm doing on Monday, and I don't know what I'm doing on Tuesday, but I'm there.
Oh, I
So
get it in the summer.
if you try to take that and say, push that out a year,
We're going to lose subs.
absolutely. So that's already been bid out as part of the project. So that's what I mean by the schedule.
But I like this dialogue. I think, the more things we throw at the wall and see if they stick, like you said, it's not an ideal situation. It's making the best out of a situation that was handed to us because of supply chain issues. And I think with the minds that we have at play, the more discussions that we have about it, we can make it as the best plan possible.
I will tell you that the faculty have been absolutely wonderful. They have embraced this. They have recognized, and it's both the Campbell faculty, they're sort of understanding that what they're being asked to do is different than even what the middle school faculty are being asked to do. So I
And
think
what the
there's
8th grade faculty and students are being asked to do is different than what the 5th, 6th, and 7th grade faculty are being asked to do.
But we have to remember some fundamental realities. When Campbell had 550 students in it, people didn't have their own classroom. They were sharing space all the time. That's what happens when a school, as is happening in other buildings in the district, because when you maximize out that space, it just gets thought of differently. So it's a one-year temporary situation on that. The faculty understand that. And I will tell you too
They're
that
going to be there next year. The 8th graders aren't going to be there. My high school is going to graduate. The 8th graders are going to be completely separate from their peers, lower
So
peers.
I'm going to tell you one of the things that came up in our meeting with staff today was that concern, Liz. So how do we make sure that they're still a part of our building and make sure they're still a part of us? So talking about making sure that our plans for all school-wide assemblies are happening during the time when they're physically in our building, making sure that
So they're going to miss UAs for assemblies now?
well, they do.
What? What do you mean?
If you have
They
a pep
do
rally
now.
at the end of the day, why couldn't
when do they have them otherwise? There would be a time frame.
So you wouldn't, what do you mean?
Excuse me.
Maybe at the end of the day or the beginning of the day?
If I may.
Can I just finish
Yeah.
quickly
Yeah.
this thought before just to go down the path of where we are. So talking about assemblies, for example, our Veterans Day assembly, it always happens in the morning anyway during first period, and then there's a delayed schedule for the rest of the day. That delayed schedule would continue, but it would be with our 8th graders in our building, still part of those assemblies, still part of those important landmarks. We've talked about the idea of a pep rally. No, not having a pep rally at the beginning of the day. That would be ridiculous and setting them up for failure for the rest of the day. But we have that opportunity to bust them back during that best time. And having that pep rally with them still part of the spirit stick, still part of the school spirit days and weeks and months
You
that
mean
we
at the
have.
end of the day?
At the end of the day, yeah.
So the parents don't know where to pick up their kids.
That would be communicated in advance.
I'm
for the.
listening to Jen. I'm not listening to
Sorry.
the school board chair. I'm
Can I
listening
say
to Jen.
something? That a lot, the kids that were taking the buses would be on the buses anyway going home, so it would just be the students for pickup. Because what's going to happen is the buses are going to pick up at LMS, and then they're going to do the regular pickup at CHS, and the kids are going to get on the buses there.
So I'll just hop back on and go back to Campbell?
So what it's
I
gonna,
understand that,
so what's
yeah.
gonna happen for the activities?
Yeah.
The notice the time, 1:52 is when that best block starts. So the bus is coming from the compound in Nashua to the middle school. It'll swing by Campbell pick up 10, 20, 30 kids, whatever, are going back to after-school activities. They will get on the bus. It'll be there at 2:00. They'll get off as everybody else is being dismissed. We've thought through all those kind of scenarios.
Will
and
kids
seen-
who are getting picked up, like the 8th graders who are getting picked up by parents, will they be able to pick them up at LMS?
So that is a conversation that, again, we want to have with parents.
Yeah.
One of the thoughts that we have is a different trap. We talked with Mr. Perez at Campbell about a different traffic pattern. If we have parents that aren't comfortable with the buses and want to do a pickup or a drop off, we'll have staff there to greet the kids and an opportunity for parents to do their own transport if they're not comfortable with the bus situation. And then a different route. Talking about rerouting Campbell traffic and rerouting LMS traffic so that they're in two different locations, like with a placard in the car so that you can see that this is an LMS pickup, and they would come through just like they do at LMS, but at Campbell, if that is a preference of the parents. So again, these are all individual logistics, which are important. And we know that we have lots of conversations to continue to have with parents. And this is not
Set in stone.
set in stone. This is something that we're trying to communicate and work through all the kinks. This is not perfect. We are coming forward and saying, ideally, this is not a perfect environment. Perfectly, we'd have a magic $750,000 money tree that we could shake, put portables in at LMS, but they wouldn't be here till November. So that would also be a problem. But put portables in at LMS and not have to move anybody. But it's perfect isn't any part of the situation. So with knowing that perfect isn't a possibility, how can we work through the imperfect with the best patience and grace that we know how, understanding as many of the quirks and concerns and challenges.
Is there anything, I mean, the board, I think, has, a number of different conversation points to still be had, right? What I'd like to do, instead of having an open debate with Madam Chairman's approval, is I'd like to listen to the public. I mean, they've now been here for
We
2.5
have a community
hours.
input session coming up. We have other business to conduct.
All right, but you also have policy review in between that and everything else.
Right, I understand.
So you're going to make the public wait another hour at least?
No. I'm.
We would appreciate it if you could speak now.
Do you have a motion then, Andrew?
I absolutely do.
I actually, I don't think this is an open discussion with the community. This is a school board meeting. It's not an open discussion.
I'm not looking to have an open discussion. I'm looking to hear what the public has to say so they can get on
Oh,
with
so
their
you want
evening.
to move community input to now?
Absolutely.
Okay. We'll take a vote as a board.
Okay, I'll make a motion to move community input to now.
A second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. 3-2-0. So with that,
Do you want us to
I
go?
would like you to finish if you have anything else to share.
I'm sorry, I thought you were complete.
No, I still have a responsive classroom, but
Oh.
I want to make sure that
It's a whole different.
I have more that I had prepared for this evening for
I
sure,
bet.
but I want to make sure that parents' concerns are heard.
This is I don't think it's sunk in. People haven't read the email yet. I think this will be an ongoing discussion for
and
a
that's
long
the point.
time.
It's probably important that you hear the
Yeah.
public input as well, right?
No,
So-
and I pulled up an email that came through tonight, and as I was talking, was going through and answering the points. That is our intent. Our intent is, again, hear what your concerns are and do the very best we can to address the concerns you have within the parameters that we have. We don't have the parameters where throw out the municipal lease, don't do the construction and waste the taxpayers' money. I don't think that's, I don't think that's
I
an
think
option,
we
but-
sold this construction project on being done in October.
We absolutely did.
And I think a lot of people would not have voted yes if they knew their kids were going to be displaced.
But that was the
Yeah.
I'm going to say
100%.
with 100% integrity.
Oh,
that was the
absolutely.
information that we had when that was
Oh, I
put
agree.
forward.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's not community input time just yet. You can come and speak.
A point of order on Robert's Royal rules.
You are
can be
not
brought
allowed
by
to make a
anybody.
point of order. Only a board member can. I'm sorry. Do you have anything else, Jen?
I
Jen, pause your presentation.
Mhm.
If you and Martha want to yield the chairs to public,
Yeah.
we'll do that piece and then we'll reconvene with the rest of the principal's presentation.
I think there are a lot of very valid questions and concerns, and I think tensions and passions are high right now. So I would ask, please, to conduct yourself with decorum and respect. Thank you. Community input.
Do you want to read the ground rules for community input?
Are those up above at this?
They are.
The first one?
Yep.
All right. So these are according to our board policy, public comments shall be made without expectation of a response by any school board members to matters raised by such commentary. Comments and statements may be made on matters of public concern directly to the district's policies, programs, and operations. Public commentary shall be limited to 3 minutes per person unless a board member would like to make a motion to extend that time and must identify the first and last names and address of the commenter. So would you like to come up, ma'am? Just state your first and last name and your address for the record.
My name is Dr. Christine Wilson from 20 Brenton Street in Litchfield. And I came, I do appreciate that we even got an email. So I do want to recognize that. And I appreciate the board listening to me and the superintendent. First of all, I think some assumptions are being made that may not be true. I happen to be under construction and was told it would be done last September. And it is still not done. And my costs are going down, because all the lumber costs have gone down. So I think the assumption that you'd have to pay for that, all of the subcontractors that have been at my house have not increased their prices, and they've been very, very understanding of what's happening in the supply chain and put themselves off. So I would ask that maybe we relook at putting off the construction as was suggested, because I have a great deal of problem with this. Number one, you're going to spend 40 minutes a day taking school time from my child and putting her on a bus. And you're right, I did not want her on a bus, because the day we started to put her on a bus was the day that they had a COVID outbreak on the bus. So we said, okay, we're driving. So yes, we drop her off and we pick her up. Secondly, she's a girl who has some ADD problems, and I just found out that she's been absent from her first period class for like 10 times. And I said to her, what are you doing? Because my husband drops her off on time. She can't navigate apparently from the cafeteria to her first period class in the time to get there for the roll call. So I don't know how she's going to make it from school to school. I am not going to know where she is. It is a safety issue for me. And in terms of the safety issue, I am a family nurse practitioner by training, and developmentally, there was a reason for all those years that you had 1 through 8th grade. And part of that was developmental. And you can separate these kids all you want into one wing, and we all know that they are going to come in contact with high school kids. She is not emotionally ready to talk to any senior at any school. She just is not. And I imagine she's not the only one. So you've taken away school hours from her, and you've put her on a bus, which I don't want her on. And even if now you're going to ask me to go and drive her 4 times, because I drop her off at school, I go back 2 hours later, get her again and take her to Campbell. Then I go to Campbell and take her to GMS. And then I got to go back to GMS to pick her up after school or after drama, which you all just said was great. But drama is with 5th grade to 8th grade. And for her to make that, I've got to take her back again. Mm-hmm. And then she's in robotics, and sometimes they have it and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they have drama, sometimes they don't, because there's a teachers meeting on Wednesday afternoon when drama is usually held. So we're not going to know as parents where our children are. And I really want to thank, first of all of the board members who listened with open ears to what she was saying and had legitimate complaints, but didn't try to shove it down our throats, because to keep coming at us and saying, oh yeah, that's a good point, that we need to listen to her, doesn't show me as a taxpayer that if you're on the board that you have a right to be there, because you're closed-minded before the opening of the discussion. So I ask you not to have tunnel vision. I ask you to look at this from a point of view of a parent whose kid is now going to be disrupted, and again, disrupted, I should say, and is going to lose time in education. Are you going to give me an extra hour every day for her to make up that bus time? Are you going to really supply her with the same education when she's going to now focus on 4 intense core things? And what if she needs help after school? The core people are back at CMS. She's going to be dropped off at LMS. I mean, so she's going to be their core people. She just presented a thing where 4 hours in the afternoon, your science, math, reading, everything is at CMS, and that faculty's staying there. Correct? Correct? LMS?
You mean CHS?
No, CHS. I'm sorry. So they're going to be at the high school. The core is going to be at the high school. The kids are going to be back at LMS at the middle school in the afternoon. They have no access to extra help. They can't. They're going to have to go back to the high school to see those faculty.
Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's okay. But that was what was just presented, and that doesn't make any sense to me. Is that, why, if you're going to have your faculty members at the high school, that they're going there morning and through the day, and then my kid gets after school, has a question on science. How's she going to access the science teacher? Now she goes to the science room and asks a question. But in the proposed plan, she's got to get herself back to Campbell High School, talk to the science teacher so that she can get her work done for the next day. So there's no after school help anymore for these kids. It's gone. You've lost school time. You've lost extra school help. You've lost the education for these 8th graders. And what about graduation? I'm sure you're having a great time with your 8th grader graduating and all the facilities that go around that. Our 8th graders are not going to feel part of anything. They're going to feel part of the bus schedule. And they're not going to be celebrating anything at the end of the year because they are not going to be part of it throughout the full year. I'm sorry, I had...
It's Dr. Wilson, correct?
Yes.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to change our time limit from 3 minutes to 10 minutes, please, to allow for continued.
Thank you.
Do I have a second?
I would do 5.
I think we've already exceeded.
Yeah, I
the
think we've
3.
exceeded 5. That's why I was trying to.
Do you have anything?
I'll just really quickly wrap it up. And all I want to say is, I also don't understand why, if we needed to have a $500,000 portables as an option, why I was not taken up when I offered to write grants for this community by Dr. Jedde's office, by the principals of either schools. And I was told by Dan Mitchell that he would get back to me. He was the only one who even responded. I have written grants for other school systems and gotten them thousands of dollars. And had I needed it, and we would have had the time to start some of those grant processes, and you might have been able to have your things. And I really do appreciate your time, and I hope you really give this the full consideration, because you are here at the behest of the taxpayers and the voters. And this is not what we voted for. And every board is held legally responsible to the vote. And you have to follow your policies and procedures in terms of that vote. So I yield my time, and I thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Emily?
Kathleen Doucette, 115 Talent Road. I have 2 boys currently at the middle school. One is a current 8th grader and one is a current 7th grader. So they might both be going to CHS next year. My thoughts are all over the place, so excuse me if I ramble and don't make any sense. Thank you for opening the motion for community input now. The email already has been discussed. I understand that sometimes things happen and maybe we can't get it out as soon as possible. So I get that. What I don't get and what I'm not happy about is how, even though this is a proposal, it seems that it's certain it's the 8th grade. There seems to be no discussion about that. That decision has been made. That's what I'm not happy about. The school board or the school district always seems to say keep kids first. This is for K or preschool really through 12th grade. And we've just decided to disrupt the 8th grader's life. As Liz has said earlier, these kids have not had a normal middle school experience. They started 5th grade COVID. and now it's going to be 8th grade. They've had no actual middle school years. In a way, that's great because honestly, let's all admit it, middle school, at least for me, was the worst years of my life. So maybe that's beneficial to them. But on the other hand, it would be nice for them to have an actual middle school experience. Again, the whole back and forth, the whole losing school time, the whole UAs in the morning. Huge problem for my child as he's on an IEP. He gets extra help. We've already had a plan starting in motion of what's going to happen next year. This cannot work with his plan. This is not what we've already planned to do. So with his core help and whatnot. So this schedule does not work for him. So this is at the point where if he can't get the schedule he needs, he can't attend Litchfield Public School. So is he going to go to school and then be separately bused back to go back for core help? Is there going to be people available? Is his case manager and people going to be available for him to get his help for his IEP? So that's a huge problem. It's a huge problem.
Jen's nodding her head.
Oh,
I didn't mean to
sorry.
interrupt you, but
Yeah.
The 8th grade case managers will be between LMS for the first 2 periods and handle all day with students for that extra support to meet all IEP goals and all. I'm sorry to.
no,
That's okay. No, that's okay.
If
No,
we
that's
let
okay.
Jen respond at the end of all of the.
yeah, okay.
Probably taking notes about different things. Yeah.
And again, as somebody, I might have been you that said about the wild animals at the end of the day to have 4 big classes just right in a row. It's a lot. And I'm discouraged. And I think that everyone needs to have creative thinking. And I don't think there's any creative thinking. And I think that people are like, oh, well, the 8th grade can go because that's like the next step for them. And as we all remember, when our 4th graders were going to 5th grade, at least me and all my friends were all like, oh my God, my 5th grade is going to go to the middle school and this is horrible and blah, blah, blah. Well, we were just told in the presentation that these 8th graders are going to have their own wing, their own entrance, totally separated. Well, if it's true that they're totally separated, then why can't they stay and have 1 full year of a middle school experience and be the king of the schools, as every 8th grader longs to be, and let the 5th graders go or let another class go if they're totally segregated? Because there are options that if they're totally segregated, these other 6th, 7th, or 5th, 6th, and 7th graders are going to have their time in the sun at the middle school. So I guess that's all I really have to say. But I'm just disappointed in the fact that it seems that the 8th graders are doomed without any input. And it just seems like that was what the decision. And that's what bothered me. They didn't get nature's classroom. They haven't had, again, any real experience. So I ask everyone again, as the woman before me said, please keep an open mind. I think some people feel, and this is normal, like if it's not your kid, not your problem. But if we truly are for all the children, then let's not say this is temporarily for 1 year. Because those say 100 kids, that's their 1 year of being in the middle school. And that's a lifetime. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Ellen? Or somebody else?
So we're just gonna kind of talk as Campbell reps.
Yes, thank you.
There really wasn't anything discussed about the Campbell students within this plan. I know it was said that they were going to be completely segregated from us, but they are not. We both have classes in the English wing, which is where they would be. If they were going to shut those doors, they still have to come in the main hallway to use those bathrooms. There are not separate bathrooms for that wing. These kids are, what are they, in 8th grade, 13, 14? Yeah. So they're going to be interacting with 16, 17, and 18-year-olds. So technically an adult at 18 years old are going to have these interactions, and it's not ideal. They are not going to not see each other in a hallway. We see freshmen all the time who are kind of in different classes as freshmen. Yeah. We see them constantly. And kids are going to wander. Kids aren't going to follow the rules. I just do not think that this is fair for the upperclassmen. We're going into our senior year. Like the middle schoolers, like the rising 8th graders, we have not had one normal year in high school. So now they're saying all these 8th graders got to come into our school. And the parking lot issue too, the pickup, There is a massive issue right now in the parking
Yeah.
lot as it is. There's almost an accident every day in that parking lot at school. And now you're going to add more middle school parents. It is not ideal at all. And I just think that there needs to be a lot more consideration from the Campbell side of it. I understand the problems at the middle school, and I understand that there is construction that needs to be done, but maybe we put it off because this is going to be way too much of a headache for everybody. So that's what I have to say.
I think that if there was definitely more time on it, I understand. I think we all have had issues with the supply chain. That like maybe 1 or 2 months, I think it'd be more people more accepting to it. But with no deadline, I think it's people are like, is it gonna be the whole year? Because that is a lot. I think.
It is. I just think discipline-wise too, it's not going to go well when you have all these juniors and seniors and even
gonna be
sophomores,
really-
freshmen, seeing all these little 8th graders. It is not going to go well, and I feel like they should not have any type of interaction or any chance of interaction with these upperclassmen at all. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public input?
Steve Doucette, 115 Talent Road. I just want to address the timing of the email. It's not the first time we've got last minute notice on things. I understand that things were all discussed today, but you can't tell me that you didn't know this was going on and you couldn't say even yesterday that it's going to be discussed tonight. You didn't have to send out that flyer that took, I would say, a good bit of time to put together. You didn't have to send any of that out. Just send out an email saying, come to the meeting tomorrow if you want to hear about this, instead of 2 hours before the meeting. So I'm sorry, just passionate. There's a lot to be said about communication and given enough time to know what's going on. Because as you can see, there's not many people here because they only got 2 hours notice. So that's what I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Anything else for public input? Jen, do you? Oh,
Can I just say one more thing? I won't make the comment because I saw it on Facebook, and actually, I think this is a good idea, and I don't know. I just want to share it. Somebody said, "What about?" And I know you don't really want to hold the construction. I think that's a good idea to hold construction, but if you start later on in the year, and then maybe send the 8th graders like towards the end of the year, that way it's almost like a step up for them.
thank you.
Oh, I know that, and that's not okay with the high school kids, which really isn't cool either because that's their high school experience. So, right.
Thank you. Did you, I mean, we kind of jumped to public input. Did you happen to check the Google Meet at all?
I did not. Do you want me to?
Yeah. Jen, do you want to respond to some of those questions?
Sure, I'll do my best.
Especially
Let me
the
just log in
educational
here.
time, too.
Yes.
Give me a second to log in, because let's close public,
Okay.
right?
The challenge with moving this forward is if our first person to ever join wants to join at the other previous
We
time.
could also revisit it and add
Yeah,
another
I
session.
feel
at
like
the
we
end.
should.
We can
We
do that.
moved the session.
We did, but
Nobody's ever here.
I know,
However.
but that's why I voted
However.
against it
But we can add a
because
session.
You're gonna add
it messes
another
up with the
session?
digital
if just
call
at the
in.
end of the meeting. If we
Okay.
need to,
Yeah.
then we can do
Okay.
But it's me again.
Or they can email us to say they're joining. Or
Right, and
Yeah,
and I think Jen had alluded to the fact that we are planning to have parent
Yeah.
discussion groups and meetings with parents and families to discuss this further. So we're not, this isn't the end product. This is
This
kind
is
of
just
the,
the toe dip. We have
Right.
lots and lots of conversations,
Mhm.
situations to discuss.
Thank you.
What happens is not set in concrete. It's set in soft jello. There's lots of room to finish that. So just to address,
Are you ending public comment?
I will end public comment now.
Should I read Stephanie's letter now? I don't know what that falls under.
Is it?
Why would you
What's that?
read her letter? I'm sorry, because it
'Cause
was
it's-
not addressed to the board. You just
But she
forwarded
just
it to
sent
the
it-
board.
she sent it to
the
us.
board.
Oh, she did?
Yes.
Just like now while
Yeah.
we were in the
Yes.
meeting?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Thanks, Steph. Can you just reiterate her points quickly?
I think everything she said has been mentioned.
Okay.
She's vehemently against the plan. She's a
Excuse
high
me,
school.
who is this?
deliver Girl Scout cookies to her. She's on
Oh, she's a bird.
yeah, Bluebird. Blackbird, I think.
Blackbird? I don't know.
Yeah. Yep.
We can find it later.
Just buy a bird.
As a parent, high school teacher myself, in a 3-year span where kids have lost so much normalcy, we would be ruining yet another year for our kids. And talking about the return bus date, which I think you'll probably address. While this district can say 8th graders will not be mingling with the high school students, that may not be true. The struggles with the 5th grade have felt at LMS this year should serve as proof that the 8th graders will feel a struggle in an even greater way, as they will not be in a school with high school. They will be in a school with high school seniors. And she's disappointed. And she has also gone through renovations in her school and other schools. And they braved through it, I guess. And that basically sums up. All of her concerns were addressed, I believe.
Thank you.
Or you will address.
And this tonight, I'm not going to have all the answers. I'm going to start by saying that I don't have all the answers, so I'm not going to attempt to give all the answers, but just kind of address some of the points that I can respond to based on some of the concerns that were had. So can we pull up the 8th grade schedule again?
Hang on. I've lost track of it. Let me try this link.
Ton of documents at the top there.
There. I like this version better. It's bigger.
I think that was a good question about the special ed person
Yep.
following the
So
kids.
a couple of things to address here. The core classes would be offered, and I could get into the nitty gritty of specific special education questions that we have, but I think that would be better addressed through one-on-one meetings. I don't want to get into individual students' IEPs to divulge any information, but we have addressed, there are laws against that. We have addressed that core will be provided by the special educator at LMS for that period 1 and period 2 for extra help and support. And the special educator will be at Campbell for the remainder of the time. There was a statement made by one of the representatives up here that our students are losing time during the day. So I just want to point out that they aren't, in fact, losing time. They're actually gaining a few minutes of instruction. If you notice the timeline of what happens here, their classes go from 9:30 to 10:25. So they have 55 minutes of instruction. So they haven't lost any instructional minutes. Those are still all in their schedule. The travel time was taken out of the time of they'll be arriving with the LMS time and departing with the Campbell time, which is that 15-minute differential. So that bus transport time is built into the schedule so that it doesn't take away from their academic learning time. The question that came up in regards to having access to teachers after school, right now, they don't have access to teachers after school. They use the Learning Commons as that place for extra help and support. That would still be a co-curricular that is available after school for the students to be able to have full-time LMS staff. It may be 8th grade teachers. It depends who signs up for that co-curricular. But to have that opportunity to come during Learning Commons, to be able to support and answer questions when homework is stuck, they'll still have access the same way they do now via email to all of their teachers. So if it's not in person, I think all students these days have many ways to communicate, whether it's via Google Meet, whether it's via an email, a conversation, to get those questions answered and help. And we have places and spaces available that will be accessible to whatever group of students. I'm going to put it in whatever group of students happens to be in Campbell, would have that opportunity to get those extra helps and supports from LMS staff at LMS. Let's see. Extra help we talked about. Support for students in the Learning Commons. I agree being on the bus is not an ideal circumstance, but again, if you have any creative solutions, we'd love to hear them. In regards to some of the CHS student concerns, these are all things that we have addressed with Mr. Perez and Mr. Lonergan currently, and would continue to have conversations both with CHS students and CHS faculty to make sure that we are mitigating any of those concerns. There's a set of doors that happens at the end of the ninth grade, the English hallway, that would be able to be closed. And there are 2 staff bathrooms in that hallway that would be the ones that the 8th graders would be utilizing. They wouldn't be going beyond those doors and out and around to use the other bathrooms. That would be their location to be available to them there. UAs in the morning isn't ideal. Again, we're looking at all schedule possibilities. No schedules are set in stone as of yet. We're still working through things. This is our, again, set in soft jello idea. And creative thinking, I encourage and implore anybody who has creative ideas, thoughts, and suggestions, please reach out. We're here to listen, to hear your ideas, to hear your concerns, and to try to help come up with positive solutions within the frameworks of what we have available to us, to find those positive solutions, to make this manageable, or as manageable as we possibly can. And as it's not going to be painless, but pain-ish, only a little bit of pain as much as possible. So in regards to interactions with the upperclassmen, again, with that doorway being closed, they wouldn't be going up the main stairwell. They'd be going up the stairwell that's at the end by the SAU office, in and out that door. And there have been some conversations with Mike Perez about the traffic and lunch and how to get them to and from those locations. And again, Mrs. Thayer and I will be here or at Campbell to go back and forth.
As will guidance.
As will counselors, as will support staff. Paraprofessionals will be, our LMS paraprofessionals will be, that are allotted to 8th grade, will be at Campbell. Our LMS special education staff that are allotted to 8th grade will be interacting with those students on a regular basis. So those things have all been thought of. The timing of the email, I don't know how else we could do it with making sure that we were communicating with all the stakeholders. The perfect answer would be like we threw it up in the air and everybody got it at the exact same time. We were trying to do that as close as possible because the email was timed to send out as soon as we talked to the teachers this afternoon. And it actually went out mid-meeting this afternoon so that the teachers get the information and the parents get the information at the same time. So I think that's what I have.
One other question. Is lunch at CHS, is that dedicated for the 8th grade class or is that
Yes.
mixed?
Just the 8th
That may have
graders.
been said.
Are you going to shut
Yeah.
the doors?
To the CAF? Yes.
The only thing I guess I want to, it's not so much a question, but I have a 7th grader who will be an 8th grader next year. And I don't know how I feel about this. I appreciate the fact that you've put a lot of time into this. I don't think anyone can question your intent, nor should they question your intent on this, because I think it is to keep the students first. I think it's a tough situation with the supply chain issues. It's a tough situation with the timing. I wish we had more answers with respect to those questions so we could make these decisions. But at the same time, you're balancing it with having to be able to plan for next year in a timely manner. If you're going to be having any grade, whether it's 5th, 6th, 7th, or 8th over at the high school at a different school, you need time to plan what that's going to look like and the logistics of that. So I understand there's that issue there. I think in terms of communication, I was the one, I will own it. I said, do an FAQ sheet. I said, send something out that answers questions because there's going to be a lot of questions. And you did. And I personally think it's fantastic that you did that because I think it's, as a parent, it's something that you can look at. I understand that people are looking at this saying, this is a done deal. This is already decided. It is still a proposal, and the hope is to get all the voices in and the questions asked, because if people ask questions and raise something that may not work, that we're not thinking of, or that you're not thinking of, I don't want to say we, like I've had anything you've been thinking of, you've been doing the hard work on this. We need to know what that is and what that planning is. So as a parent, I'm not sure how I feel about it, but I do want to commend you on the communication piece. And I know that you're getting hit online for that. And I don't think that that's fair at this point, because again, this is to open the conversation. We've told parents all along, we want your feedback. We want to hear from you. We want to have information. but
Oh,
it's
what? I don't remember that.
on all issues.
Oh, on all issues.
Like
yeah.
generally, we've said parents, we want to hear from you on all issues, and that was in the email today.
We can't discuss.
3:00.
We can't discuss our issues if we don't know what issues are going on.
Again, I can't engage with the public during this part, but the only response I will have is that the decision's not being made tonight. So there is still ample opportunity for everyone to tomorrow to give their input. This isn't being decided tonight. You said you're gonna have info sessions?
I am looking at the calendar to try to set up some info sessions next week, some during the day for people that work in the evenings, some during the evenings for people that work during the day, to try to give that opportunity for conversation. And again, if I can ask, and I know people have heightened emotions and are frustrated, but if we enter it with patience and grace and understand that we're coming from good intent to try to work within the parameters that we have to make the best decisions for kids as a whole, I promise you that I didn't enter education 25 years ago to make a bad decision and to hurt kids.
And
That's not my
No
goal.
one questions your ethic, and you've known me for 4 years, and I always put the kids first, and especially their social emotional needs, and that's where I'm coming from for my own child and the other children. And you know that more than probably anyone. Sorry, you were ready for it.
Liz, the one thing I would say, having gone through this, the kids are so resilient. They will adapt and they will adjust. Hang on one second. They absolutely, they've proven that over the last 3 years. And I've seen this 15 years ago in that construction project. The kids are fine. They just sort of adapt and roll with the punches on it. They really do.
Seventh grade.
But we're gonna be there to support whatever kids are part of this and whatever the plan is moving forward. We have everybody.
Well, some of us might be.
Well, it sounds like more to come.
More to come.
More to come. Please
conversations
send your
to be had.
feedback in. We want to hear
Yes,
everybody's
please.
input.
Not on Facebook, in emails, please.
And it has to be addressed to the board, the
As a
school board,
whole,
as a whole.
School board at litchfieldsd.org.
Or jgrantham@litchfieldsd.org, because
Better.
I'm hoping to be able to
Yes.
get
Well,
some of those answers solved before.
Yes.
that's a
has to
critical
come.
thing is
Yeah.
that
She
if
needs
they
to be
want
on every
answers to
email.
questions, the board's not going to answer questions.
Yep.
They need to go to Jen. They can copy the board so you're aware of the
Exactly.
questions, but
Right. Jen is the administrator, kind of leading
Thank you for that
leading this
clarification.
plan. So she's the one to ask or to make comments or questions, direct questions.
And I'm not on Facebook, so I don't see any concerns that are on Facebook. I'll say that one more time.
Life is
Please send
easier.
those emails in. I do my best to answer them. Sometimes I'll click it open and get interrupted and then not get back to it. So if you don't hear from me in the next 12 hours or 24 hours, reach back out again or pick up the phone and give a call, and I'll be happy to talk to anyone that has questions or concerns. Again, understanding that I may not have all the answers today, tomorrow, or the next day. This is a process. And until we have some solid answers from construction end, we won't have solid answers from we wanted to include you in the conversation so that you can see that we're being as preemptive as we can with the information that we have at this moment in time.
Can you, when you schedule those info sessions, can you make sure to put a
We're invited.
virtual link? Well,
I'd like to
I was
be
going to say a
invited.
virtual link in case people can call in from home or work or something like that.
Thank you.
All right.
And just a quick question, the emails, when we email, we don't expect an email back, right?
Correct.
We don't get
To the
it.
school board.
It doesn't get responded
It gets
to.
summarized and read, and I'm still practicing that.
It goes into the minutes of the meeting, so it's on the record. For the school board.
Okay.
If you have a question, send to Jen. Jen
Yes.
will do her best to respond.
Any question?
I think
School appropriate.
I think we covered it.
I did. I just wanted to know
she'll give you the lottery numbers.
rock, paper, scissors. I know last time there were some questions about responsive classroom. I just wanted to take a moment because it does address some of those social emotional concerns. And I just wanted to take a second. And when I say social emotional, it's more about relationship building.
Right.
And I think it's perfect and timely in this conversation. I don't know
think
if you
you
want
should-
me to
Nope.
talk
we're
about that now, or if
here
you
for
want
the
me
long
to.
haul, so
What was that?
We're
I
here
don't
for
want
the
to keep
long
you
haul.
long.
We
I
don't
don't.
stop till it ends.
Yeah. I
Um,
think it's an important because Liz raised the question
Yeah.
about what it is and
And I want everyone to know, I know what it is.
right. I think it's a good topic for your
I'm trying to catch up. So we're
Segue.
off 8th grade schedule. I'm closing it.
Responsive
Yeah.
classroom.
Now we're looking at responsive classroom. And so let me click this. And there you go.
Like this too, Mrs. Grantham?
So to clarify, a responsive classroom didn't go through PERC. Didn't go through that because it's not a program, it's not curriculum, it's not materials to teach. It's more about how we teach, and it's perfect PD for our staff as we are transitioning through a year of flux and change, and how to continue to maintain those relationships with our kids, our students. I hate to say kids, they're not goats. Students, and can you click to slide?
Yep, show me one.
So it's an approach. It's an approach to how teachers teach the materials and the content and the curriculum that they already have, and the language that they use to interact with students, the way that they're working to build relationships in a positive way. And I think one of the things that we're very sad to be losing our fantastic retirees that are departing this year, but we have the opportunity to help train almost whole new staff with the number of retirees that we have and the number of positions that we have. We're going to have an opportunity to train people to speak to kids in a polite and appropriate way, and not that they don't now, but it's just a way to kind of continue to build on that and have the opportunity to interact. Next slide. Going through the fast version of this conversation. How will it help our staff and students? It's going to help by increasing engaging academics. It doesn't indicate what students are learning, but how it's presented in an interactive and fun way with student choice and voice, which I think is important and part of what we're talking about here. It helps to build a positive community, helping students and staff develop a sense of belonging and significance in the classroom. It helps teachers with more effective management strategies, ways for teachers to create working environments that set students up to be successful, to work independently and productively, and present strategies for handling misbehaviors respectfully and effectively. Additionally, oops, that's hiding behind the words there. Oops. Hold on a second. Teachers-based teaching practices, the organization of the learning environment, and teaching decisions based on students' strengths and how to respond to them. So it's a strength-based perspective, and it ties in perfectly with our best that we're currently doing, and building those relationships and having that opportunity for teachers and students to build their affiliation, to cultivate responsibility, to develop grit and perseverance. And I think with construction next year, that's going to be a really critical skill for all of our students from 5th through 8th grade, and to have that active and interactive learning. So that the PD that we were proposing as part of the grant that was presented last week was about helping teachers to frame all of these responses. One of the great things about Responsive Classroom, it has furthering language where it helps adults and students use language that creates community and culture in all aspects of our school environment. By explicitly using positive teacher language, teachers greatly enhance student learning. So instead of coming to, hey guys, we're in science class today, it's, hey students or scientists, we're going to do something today that is sciencey, and there's ways that you frame that language, and that's a very generic, and after a very long day and lots of questions, I apologize that it's not more specific, but how we teach is important as what we teach. Great cognitive growth occurs through social interactions and building positive relationships with our staff. And LMS has one of the best staffs. I mean, HMS did too. Sorry, Liz. But LMS really does have one of the best staffs around. And I think with all of the new staff we have coming aboard, it's an opportunity to continue to build those positive relationships. And I think that's one of the reasons that we're going to be able to handle whomever is located at Campbell, if that's the decision that we make as a group, that those positive relationships with staff that are built and supported are going to help students feel that sense of belonging, even if they're physically, temporarily not in the building. It's teaching about cooperation, assertiveness, responsibility, empathy, self-control is as important as academic content. So when we're talking about those work study practices being as important as the academic content, Responsive Classroom has a great way of kind of bridging those gaps. how we work together as adults to create a safe and joyful school environment. And as people said, middle school is one of the hardest places to be. As an educator who has done the gamut from K through 12, I will say middle school is my favorite. It is a years of change and growth, and holy smokes, but they're learning so much in the time. When you have them come in as fifth graders and they're this tall and they leave as mustaches and muscles, it's totally different, and not the girls. What we know and believe about our students individually, culturally, developmentally, informs our expectations and reactions and attitudes to students. So that trauma-based understanding of where students are coming from and how we can help bridge those learning gaps to help them close those learning gaps through the way we're approaching learning. And then also partnering with families, knowing and valuing our families' input, which is important and critical to us, and valuing their contribution is as important as knowing and understanding the children we teach. So it's a great strategy. It is not a curriculum. It's just about how we're building those relationships during a best time. Any questions about responsive classroom?
How is this being paid?
A grant.
It's a grant,
funds
correct?
for
Yeah, I was just trying to find that in the previous
Mm,
agenda. It was a
yes.
grant, right? Okay.
Exactly. And that's why we need that sole source vendor approval, which Corey had under his reports. We're sort of circling back to that, but we had to get the presentation first.
We're just doing the responsive academy.
We're just doing the same academy that came to HMS. It's a 4-day academy of professional development and training for teachers. It's not about curriculum materials. It's a book. There's games and activities. There's things that you work to build in conversations. As a district, we've sent teachers down to Parker School in Danvers, and Parker uses the Devons. Thank you, Fort Devens. Parker uses responsive classroom as part of what makes those kids feel that sense of belonging and part of every day. And that's something that we really want to be able to build. And I know middle school is a place where everybody has to find their way. And this is a place to have everybody be included and be able to find their way in middle school and belong.
I will make a motion to approve responsive classroom.
A second.
Do we need to say as a sole source vendor, or is it that implicit?
I think the motion's fine, as long as we get the other motion that we can sign the contract.
Oh, yeah.
We already have that in place, so that's fine.
Okay. Good point.
Yeah, true.
So we have a motion and a second. Any other questions or discussion? So this is a motion to authorize.
Approving a sole source vendor.
Okay.
Thank you for that
And
explanation.
can I add to that motion then to approve the signature of the?
Here you go.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So I'll revise my motion to approve responsive classroom as well as for the business administration SAU office to sign off on the contract.
I second that.
All right. Any other questions or concerns? Thank you, Jen, for going through that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500.
And just before Jen is done, because it's early, we can't let her go. So first of all, you're going to get some really, she and Martha have worked very hard on hires. You're going to see some really good teachers coming forward later on for hire. But one area that they've struggled in is family and consumer science. And so I wanted Jen to talk about that for a second, because we're, as a state of New Hampshire, we're not in a good spot. So those programs still exist, and there are learning expectations that need to be held. We have done the traditional approach, which is to have a course. A lot of school districts have gone away from a course because first of all, there are no programs in the state that even certify somebody to be a family and consumer science teacher any longer. So there's a shift that's taking place here, and we're feeling the fact that shift is taking place. So Jen, I set you up, I hope.
I think so. So I'm kind of just putting feelers out for the board. This is not a decision. It would be something that would have to go through PERC and through multiple steps before we get to that point. But one of the concerns that we have right now is that finding a family and consumer science teacher, as Mike said, we've had the job posted since February and have had a whopping total of 0 one
One.
who
Took a job somewhere else.
job elsewhere. one applicant that we put through trying to get her through in a timely fashion, and she accepted a job elsewhere. So since that one applicant came through, we've had 0 further applicants. I promise I refresh that page every day, hoping that there will be a family and consumer science teacher. And we're not finding one out there. So I put out to the New Hampshire Association of School Principals, how is everybody else handling this? Because we're not alone in that struggle. We're not alone in that concern. And I got a lot of really great feedback. And one of them kind of perked my ears and perked my interest, because I heard from this board a desire to have some additional STEM instruction, some additional science and math learning. And one of the people who responded to my question to the server list that we have came back with an idea of a class. It's called, and I'm going to say the name of the class that he sent, is called Sustainability. We are going to be the first 40, if this all works out, the first 40-year-old school to go through a renovation that will bring us to a net zero footprint. And if we talk about sustainability and talk about how that real life hands-on STEM understanding of what that looks like for us as a school, for what that looks like with taking a look at how the solar panels are impacting our energy consumption and how we can conserve even further to refine and utilize that math and science understanding. They actually have a whole course and program that he forwarded along to me. It's like a website. I mean, it's a web page that he forwarded, which was broken out into 4 sections. And I'm trying to remember what they are because I don't have that open on my screen right now.
Quarter long, a half year.
So it would be a semester unified arts, just like FACS is now. And it would be offered in 2 grade levels. I'm not sure what grade levels those would be yet, but it would be something to the effect of a sustainability course, which would have would help to understand natural resources, food systems, climate action, and create impact projects. So as you may or may not know, family and consumer science is part of the state minimum standards for middle school education, but other districts and other places have taken the language of those standards and worked them out to incorporate them through other content area. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do the sewing and the cooking, but if you take a look at food systems and you take a look at the idea of maybe I can talk to Dr. Wilson about looking at some grants for a greenhouse project where we can plant in the courtyard at LMS and have food sources that we can rotate through our cafeteria, talk about solving problems for Darlene and for Lauren about monies. If we could have us be a school that has so many green opportunities in live project-based learning situations where the students can take impact projects. One of the ones that they talked about, for example, is looking at the amount of trash produced by a cafeteria and the amount of, how many pounds of waste is created in composting, and the ideas of taking a look at how that works together. I'm not saying that that's one we necessarily want to take on because that'd be kind of a stinky project, but looking at those sources and taking that real life learning that is going on through the project that we are bringing through and have that opportunity to have a possibility for a course if we are not successful in getting that FACS teacher. So I guess I was just bringing it forward as, is that something the board is interested in us pursuing, or is that something that we want to keep plowing through the FACS field? Or
I think it's an interesting alternative to bring the sustainability piece in. If you can incorporate more than just science and math, because I feel like as a district we've really pushed the STEM. If you can incorporate language and writing and journaling and those kinds of things into it.
I've pulled out, and I don't have the document right now. It would take me minute or two to find it in Google. I pulled out all the minimum standards for the state for facts, which includes communication skills, which includes budgeting skills. So talking about if we're looking at planting a garden or making a greenhouse, having that opportunity to, how much is it going to cost? What do we need to plant? How much is it going to cost to get the seeds? How much food are we producing? What are those things? So it would be those big idea things, those lifelong application skills that we're always talking about building in our students. And I think it would be a really cool class to be able to offer for our students to gain access to really think outside the box. And it's lots of perspectives can come into the situation. It doesn't have to be just go green or go home. It can be, you know what, this is a way, this is a way we can really entertain those conversations in what our eco footprint looks like and how we can refine it to make it better
So
for their
you'd be looking-
future.
Instead of effects, you'd be looking for someone
What kind of
with an
teacher?
environmental science background kind of thing.
Hypothetically,
Example.
or a K to, I mean, a K to 8 certification
Yep.
would
Tie it all in.
to tie it all in together, because
Yeah.
we're really talking about math, science,
All of
social
those
studies,
things.
language
Yeah.
arts.
I think our vision, very integrated, it would be using the building as a learning lab. So it'd be really hands-on, really practical. And then those life skill things. I mean, we've all made energy choices as adults and contemplate, okay, what do I do? How do I upgrade the hot water tank, et cetera. So, having people understand how to go through a process in the decision making. So, you use the building as a learning lab, but it hopefully informs future consumer sciences, because we're all consumers.
I love the idea. I think it's great.
I do too.
Very hands-on.
Okay.
That's very creative thinking.
So our thought then is to bring that to PERC, and then it'll come back to you for approval. But we didn't want to bring it to PERC until we felt out, because this is a little bit of a, I don't know, left turn, right turn, whatever turn we're making on.
It's a pivot,
the
but it's
facts,
just
a
because,
pivot.
again, we need to hire. Looking at it's now almost June.
Yeah.
We need
3
to hire a
months with
position.
No applicants. We have
Yeah.
to do another.
I will wait as long as we can, but I also don't want to wait so long as we're
That was
sitting
my
here and
next
having
question.
an
When do we
empty.
make the decision to close the facts position and add this one? So
So,
That's their job.
so we'll keep plugging,
I
and
don't think,
I think it's also keeping eyes on the candidate pool. So there may be somebody who comes in second place for a whatever grade level, and all of a sudden you're saying, but wait a second. So we're going to know it when we see it.
we did,
Say again?
and he worked at a zoo. We
Yeah.
did have someone.
We're
who
not
worked
we're
at
not
a
there
zoo.
yet.
We did have someone who worked at a zoo.
Oh yeah.
We did. That's right.
We
Might
have,
have another one that works
yep,
at a zoo.
you just sit tight. We're replacing one
That's
zookeeper
why I
with
was-
another.
That's why I said we're not there yet.
Before you leave, Jen, I have a question. Are you done? Are you done?
I think so.
There is a rumor, going around that if the 8th grade goes to Campbell High School, they will lose accreditation. Can someone talk-
Who will lose
the
accreditation?
high school?
Absolutely not.
Okay, just checking.
So
Just covering my bases
as
before it gets out there.
Mike indicated, one of the things as we're discussing possibilities is, as long as the, whatever grade it is, if it's 8th, if it's whatever we decide as a group, ends up there, as long as they are still under middle school curriculum, middle school supervision, and middle school programming, they're still middle schoolers.
Okay.
In the high school.
It's
we
still high
maintain
school.
it.
And the high school is accredited by NEASC. It's
Right.
a high school. It's an accredited high school. It's just the program
That's-
is there.
yeah, that
So,
kind of freaked me out
there's
a little.
no impact on that.
Okay. I'm just-
It's a good question to
It was a
clarify.
good question from several people.
thank you, Jen.
Thank you.
I think we're safe to say thank you. All right.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Thanks, you too.
Thank you.
I'll be back.
Okay, that brings us past VA report.
Committee reports.
So committee reports. I thought we'd do this a little differently. Just go down the
Differently?
line.
Totally forgot about
Switching
that.
this up? Okay.
Huh? Yeah. So, Andrew, do you have any committees that have met that you would like to report upon?
Would love to
There we
be able
go.
to answer that question. And the answer is yes, I think.
Okay.
Haven't joined any meetings, but as an update, budget committee's meeting next week. I'm going to dial in. My plan is to dial in virtually. I'll be on a work trip out of town.
Okay.
I've already informed Chairman Sun on that. And Town Capital Improvement Plan Committee, I think I misspoke at our last meeting. On the meeting date, that is planned for Monday, June 6th. I think I mistakenly said June 5th.
Okay,
So June 6th, Monday, next CIP meeting.
great. Thank you.
Yep.
How about Heidi?
We attended
Grading and reporting.
grading and reporting. Yes, we did. We spent some time talking about aligning the work study practices with the portrait of a learner. It's all still preliminary, but there was some good conversations between the groups from the different people who were in attendance. And I have to say, I'm learning a lot. So I am really appreciative of Mary and the whole team for taking me in on that one. And then we did have facilities as well, I believe, last week, and you were there on that one.
I was.
And we received an update on GMS, as well as I think Corey covered most of it in his business administrator
Our
report.
next meeting, which I believe is next week for the Facilities Improvement Committee, we'll be interviewing construction managers for the GMS project, which we need to name on the application for state building aid.
Has to be on the building aid,
Yeah.
right?
So that's why we're kind of moving forward with that. And then we have the updates from the LMS project, which Corey covered in his report. Anything else from that I'm missing, Heidi?
We did not meet for school start time.
Again. All right, Tara.
Sounds good. I'm just trying to find the next. Oh, there it is. Okay. 1 second. Okay. So we just two things. Emergency management. There was an Alice drill on Monday at all 3 schools. Went very well. Always some learnings. So each school is what I didn't realize is the vice principals manage these the drills, and so
the
they're
bags and
taking
everything, yeah.
all that back to their schools, and we debriefed after each school.
Awesome.
And then each of those vice principals will take that and work on the improvements.
Did they have staff for input on what they thought the drill, if they had any concerns or anything? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I think the admins debrief with the staff.
We debriefed with
The,
police and fire.
Okay.
There weren't any teachers in that, but that was so quick. That
Right.
was, the teachers were involved in the drill, getting their classes back in. So I'm not sure at the school level what the
Yeah, I was just
debrief
curious.
process looks like. Do you know?
Like,
After
did the
the
teachers
Alice
give an
drill?
input or like a survey? Like, how do you think it went? Did you see any problems?
So they have been asked to do the debrief with the students, just to talk about what went well and what they learned. To be honest, I don't
Is that
know.
the same?
The first time we did it, they debriefed in faculty meetings afterwards. So, but this is awful to say. I think we've gotten very accustomed to this. You don't want to be accustomed to it, but it's the kind of thing that I think people are just more comfortable with at this point.
Are paras a part of that process?
Are who?
Paras, do they know when we're conducting Alice drills?
You mean in
School don't
advance?
know.
School didn't know
In
this time.
advance, yeah, the school didn't know in advance. I mean, it would be, I don't know. It might be nice if there was some type, I don't even know if that's possible, but some type of notification for paras so they could, if they're there or have awareness of Alice drills, that they could also participate. No?
Parents?
Paras.
Oh,
Paraprofessionals, they
Yeah.
did
If
participate.
there's an Alice drill, everybody's
The
participating.
entire school participates.
Okay.
Secretaries,
And how to do Alice.
paraprofessionals, food service workers, everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
everybody
but
has a
there's no
role.
pre-notification that this is happening to the staff.
So our staff had said, so each school was told that you should be sure, first of all, you finish your training, brush up on Alice, because we will be conducting some sort of a live drill in the month of May.
Got it. Thank you.
That's as clear as we got about it. So
I'm gonna go back
everybody-
to my budget committee mind now. Maybe 2 years ago. I don't know. I don't recall when, but I remember a warrant article where it was approved to have special locking mechanisms on the doors.
Yep.
Are all those in place? And
They are not in place at GMS.
Except
They are in
GMS.
place everywhere but at
That's why I asked
GMS.
about the encumbrance. putting that in there.
okay,
Too. Yeah. But they're working on.
got it.
Okay, so that was it for emergency management, and then the wellness committee met again. Just, going over a revised vision. We made the decision to work on the draft of the policy over the summer, because there's just a lot of pieces to it. And the next meeting is June 7th, GMS Learning Commons at 3:30.
Does Miss Crowley work year round?
She does not.
Oh, just curious.
She has I think it's a 210-day contract.
Okay.
So it's the 180 school days plus the other days for prepping and getting everything set up and cleaning and everything taken down.
Popping in the summer.
Oh, Lauren, you mean?
Yeah.
Crowley? Okay, got it. Anything else, Tara? Works at a camp in the summer. No. Okay. Liz, did you have any other?
No, I was at grading and reporting. I think the goal is the work study practices and portrait of a learner. Here's this to get meld, because they do kind of interact. They need to be tweaked per grade level. And I think per school, and Mrs. Grantham mentioned doing them as I can at the lower levels. I can show respect. I can, and then someone may have brought up work study practices, and it was me. I'll own it. I don't feel comfortable someone questioning the integrity of my child and grading them on an integrity and respect without a lot of backup and previous notice. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you're going to say my child isn't being respectful and give them a 2, I want to know why before that, because there was also talk about if you have a 2, you don't get to play sports. You don't get to do this. You don't get to do that. But your idea of integrity might be different than my idea of integrity. It's all about the documentation, 100%. If you're going to be, because I think it's subjective.
And there was a lot of agreement around the table that it needs to be documented, and that if anyone's getting a 2 on their report card in any of those categories, the parents are notified of it. Well,
Well
they're in the list.
before.
Yeah. So.
And they were those teeth.
I am on the Facilities Improvement Committee, which Heidi reported on, and the website committee, which has not done anything yet. So
Have you received any public interest?
I have not. I don't know if Michelle has.
So I sent out in the newsletter and had people contact Michelle. She has not in the week since that went out. So I actually suggested that somebody had suggested a parent to me, and I said, contact this parent and see if they're interested.
I will say that I did have a community member reach out to me and interested in that.
Oh, great.
So
have them call Michelle or contact Michelle.
I will do that.
I think if we put it other places other than a newsletter, like even on Facebook, we get responses on everything on Facebook. As much as I think
it was
on the school board.
I don't know. I
Or
had it in
the-
the newsletter, but
Yeah.
Okay,
And it's somebody with experience doing this too.
great.
Better.
Perfect. All right. So new business. We have what?
No.
What?
I can see. I can see it.
You don't want us to do this?
No, I
What's going on?
It'd be interesting if we had the
Oh.
same person in
okay.
mind, but anyway.
I think the answer is
Move
no.
on from that whole discussion. All right. So special education teacher, we have a revised job description
It's like 6 cents.
to approve. I'll make a motion to approve the job description for special educator as amended.
Second.
Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500. All right. We have 3 policies for reapproval.
Yep, Madam Chairman, I've reviewed the policies and I'm comfortable with them. I don't know if any other board members, but I'll make a motion. Is it KI or KL? I can't.
KI.
KI, thank you. I'll make a motion to approve KI visitors to the schools, LA interorganizational relations, and LC relations with educational research agencies.
Great. I'll second. Any questions or comments?
The question I have is the LA one, and it's really, maybe we don't need to revise it, but it just says I don't really understand what interorganizational is. It says organizations while not primarily concerned with education, but yet all of the examples are primarily concerned with education. Should it be like while not primarily concerned with education of Litchfield students? I'm not sure.
Right.
Is that?
I thought the title of the policy was a little odd.
Yeah, and I kind of would like
Comes
to
from the New
understand
Hampshire-
examples
from
of
the New
3
Hampshire-
and 4.
Comes from the
Back in record.
rules. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
weird.
It used to be the old policy was inter-organization relationships. Well, that
Oh.
board at the time did not like the word relationships. So I don't particularly like the word relations, but whatever. It comes right from the New Hampshire Code of Administrative Rules,
Okay.
and nothing's changed.
Organization. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So
Let it
that
be
was
noted.
my.
Let it be noted that that policy is weird.
Yeah.
8 syllables. I will give you that.
Thank you.
All right. That was it. That was
All
just
right.
my comment about that.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor of approving policies KI, LA, and LC, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstain. 500.
Comes the fun.
So we have policies review for first reading. First one is EHB, data and records retention. I'll make a motion to approve policy EHB for first reading.
I'll second that, but I'm wondering if we can do all these at once.
Yeah, did anybody have any questions or comments on anything specific? Any of these specific policies?
I think it was just
They all seem to cover
one of them.
Yep, these were all.
One was okay. IJL. Michelle, I had a note on that. Should
There's a
the
motion made
second?
on this, right?
Yeah, I didn't get a second though.
Oh, you.
Oh,
I thought Andrew seconded.
Oh, did you second?
He asked
I
if
said
there
I was going to second, but then I was.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood you.
Right.
Okay, I'm
He
sorry.
was going to second, but he was going to do it as a group. And
Right.
then
Got it.
Started.
So that's why I asked if anybody had specific.
I just, my hearing is going.
That's all right. Tara, what was your
IJL.
comment on that one?
the IJL. I marked on there where it goes in where we start talking about procedures. Shouldn't there be a -R after?
No, we
that?
don't use that when we're combining.
You don't.
This policy has not changed. If you notice, the policy from the NHSBA is an optional policy and is very, very short and brief and general. This policy was crafted by a committee, basically, of parents and school board members and district personnel, or I should say administrators and teachers years ago, and the library media specialists at the time. I didn't make any changes to it except for a couple of redundant things because I didn't know if the board needed to. Now, the administrators, I put this out for administrators, no one has commented on it. No one has sent me anything, so I wasn't sure if I only put it out as a first reading in case the board had any issues with it or anything they wanted anything changed. That's the reason why.
So when are things a -R? I thought that was when procedures were in with the policy, which doesn't happen.
It is, but this one, this policy should never have had. We've had other policies where we've run the procedures in with the policy because the procedures in this one have to be approved.
Okay.
Normally, procedures don't have to be approved. It's an administrative decision.
Right.
But in this policy and certain others, we've combined them because those are the ones the board needs to approve.
Has to.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. All right. That's
Did you have
it.
anything else or any other board member have anything else?
No.
All right, then I will revise my motion to approve policies EHB, IJ, IJL, IJK, IKE, KLG, and LDA.
Second.
Thank you.
I gotta catch up
All
with
in,
you now.
all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. All of those are approved for first reading.
All right.
Thought that was going to take us till 9 o'clock.
Goodness,
No
that
way.
was easy. I'm surprised that was so easy. I thought I was going to have all kinds of questions.
We are well prepared. All right, the coronavirus update.
Yes, so let me, give me a second. I'm going to shift over to,
7:31.
so let's walk through school by school. So first of all, you can see that our staff cases, I'm on GMS right now, so staff cases there are going up. We were at 0 last week. We're up to 3 today. So we are seeing more cases. Our student numbers had, from the beginning of May, had gone up. Then they dipped a little bit, but they've gone right back. So 14 is the current count. And so that's our status there. Attendance rates continue to be in the medium range. We've been, historically we're below 4%, and we still are at 8.7 today. So a significant number of students out. Shifting over to LMS. LMS is also squarely in the medium, which is not inconsistent with what we're seeing in the region, by the way. I mean, this is all consistent, but here you can see you have 1 staff member positive and 8 positive students currently, with 32 out for a 9% absence rate. And Campbell has been the better situation across the board. There are 2 positive staff members and 6 positive students currently, but their attendance rates have been lower than the others. So they've stayed low throughout.
Absent rate.
Absence rate, right. What did I say?
She said attendance rate.
Yep, absence rate. Thank you. And then let me just go back to the summary for a second. So we're going to pull the numbers again tomorrow, but the first column displayed is the Hillsborough County numbers minus Manchester and Nashua. And you can see the new cases per 100,000 people are at 440 and an 11.8% positivity rate. And when you take Litchfield's numbers, there were 38 new cases reported over the past 14 days last Thursday. And so that's a positivity rate of 436. So right now the town is mirroring the county. And so that has us in the substantial range. So it's not a great scenario. You look at those numbers like 436. The last time we saw that was on February 10th. So we saw the dip, but it has gone back up since. So I'll pause there and see if the board has any comments.
No, just everyone, please stay well. Please stay safe. We know there's a nasty strain of this still going around.
I know. I never thought 2 years ago we'd still be, this would still be going on, but.
And we continue to, again, advocate for all the right things. We still have the hand wipes and the hand sanitizer and so forth. On the day, Monday, when we were doing the Alice drills, a significant number of students and staff were masked. I mean, there are people who are doing what they need to do and what they feel is right in the middle of all this. So we continue to emphasize personal responsibility. It's okay to do what you feel is the right thing to do for your own safety.
Are we tracking clusters anymore or any of that? I remember at one point we were saying if there was any classroom transmission. Is that something we're still paying attention to, or is that now not even a term used?
Nope. So under,
Right. Have they changed the definition again?
They keep changing it. So I feel like I haven't heard anything about a cluster or any type of outbreak in any of the schools. But then again, all the schools are climbing. Are they individual cases? It's hard to know.
So the state is not doing the same level of follow-up that they were at one time. So that's more on our nursing staff to keep track of. So they know who the individuals are. And if they were to identify, so remember, they're defined here. A cluster is 3 or more cases involving individuals within a specified core group. So if all of a sudden we saw a bunch of cases coming out of a classroom, we would know, hey, something's going on in there. That's a cluster. And remember, for us, this is like new conversation as educators. The nurses have been following stomach bug clusters and, chickenpox clusters. I mean, all that stuff has sort of been on the radar.
Even reported at this point.
Sorry?
If people even reported at this point.
Well, that's definitely a part of the situation. And
people that are carriers that don't even know it.
I talked with a staff member today who said they had been doing a daily test because They thought they were allergies, and they said it's allergies. This is, I know what this is, but I'm going to do the test anyway. And then it turned out positive. They're like, I feel the same as I did yesterday, but you know, that's the situation. So we'll deal with it. And then the outbreak, of course, is if you have 2 or more unrelated clusters. So, so
we haven't been doing that. We haven't had any of those issues
We
this
haven't-
year. And
not well, there were a couple that we had identified earlier on, but
Okay.
not recently.
I mean, I know the teachers are doing everything they can and doing classroom time outside and still going out for walks and, you know, taking advantage of the nice weather. So, I mean, that's all we can ask at this point. Personal responsibility, right?
All right, thank you. I'd like to make a motion to open up public input again to see if anybody would like to speak. Did you have anything else to add? Oh, let me just take the vote. Can I have a second? We just have to vote as a board. Okay. All in favor? Aye.
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 All
right.
right. Check the link too.
Thank
I
you.
just wanted to respond to actually something that Superintendent Jetty said. And as I said,
Would you mind coming to a mic?
Yeah,
Thank you.
just so the people at home can hear you too.
Yeah.
20 Brenton Street? 20 Brenton Street. What was your
My
name?
number
Doctor?
already?
Twenty.
Dr. Christine Wilson.
Dr. Christine
Wilson.
Wilson. Oh, I wrote it down.
I just want to respond to something that was said about kids being resilient. This group of 8th graders are not resilient. I'm seeing more of them on mental health drugs, on suicide watch. They have been through a lot the last 3 years. They also have not been able to socialize the way other middle graders have been able to socialize. So they are not almost high schoolers. And that concept that they can be resilient and enter a high school at this social development age for them is a falsehood. It really is. Now, I'm not advocating the 5th graders go there. But unless we come up with a better solution, I am advocating that we hold on construction and really find out what would I don't think there would be a penalty, but if there is, what is it? Because if it's 10 grand, I'll write you a grant. We'll get it somewhere. Okay. I'm serious. I used to get over 40,000 a year for school systems. I mean, I don't know what the answer is. I don't have it. I don't even have any alternatives I can offer because like the other parents, I got it, just today. And I was like, wow. But I do think that we have a smart group of people in this town. And I think we should be able to come up with something that isn't immediately going to set off 100 parents and your high school kids and all the 8th graders and upset them. And I just want you to think about the social and emotional development of these children over the last 3 years. It has not been the same as it has been in other situations. So you are not seeing a resilient group of kids. You are seeing increased suicides, increased ODs. You're seeing drug use soaring. In medical, we are going crazy. And I just have to remind you that you are about to make decisions which can impact these kids' life or death. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. And that's as a PhD nurse practitioner, who has spent years in the healthcare system and also been an educator for over 20 of those. So I beg you to think about the damage that you're going to do to these kids who are not emotionally prepared to undergo it and who are in a very different situation than when I raised my kids the first time. Okay, so that's all I want to say, and I appreciate your time, and I do think that you're all doing a great job. And I know you all have the kids at heart, but I think we need to look and not just accept that this is, that this has been fully examined and take the easy way out by saying we'll just bus the kids. And I still don't see how adding 10 days to the school day equates to a 20-minute bus ride back and forth. So I'm still confused at that. I know they added 10 minutes to the end of the day, but I don't know. It's going to take my kid a lot longer than 10 minutes to find the bus. So I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is there anybody on the link?
Just me.
Okay. All right, with that, we will close the bonus community input of the evening. And, I think I speak for everybody involved when I say that, please do reach out to Jen with your questions and concerns. This is the beginning phase of a proposed plan, and stay in the loop. And we do want to hear from everybody.
Do we know, or do we have an anticipation of when, like, direction or decision will need to be made by the board?
I don't believe it is a board decision. It's an administrator decision, but I don't know what Jen, if Jen has a date in mind that.
So
I think it's a board decision.
I do as well.
I don't know. I'd like to know what everyone else thinks.
I
What
think the-
policy are you? I guess what policy would it?
Yeah.
Where does it fall under as a policy? Would be my question.
Moving children in our district on a bus? I don't know.
I don't know a policy that's moving children on a bus.
Maybe it's just a point of research,
Mhm.
right? Does this align to a policy? Is it a board decision? Is it a school? I think
Let's get Barrett on the first.
due to the gravity of it, right? Maybe the board consider it, but let's understand it.
Yeah, I think we've had that conversations at the facility improvement committee.
Right.
And I'm not aware of where it would reside in policy. So if somebody has an idea, let us know. If you boil this down, and I understand there's a lot of emotion that goes with it, but there are lots of New Hampshire 712 schools, right? So developmentally, there are, and I'll tell you, they are wonderful schools. And that's how that community has chosen to configure. And they've been
Explain
approved for
712
that.
schools.
You take Hopkinton Middle High School.
Oh, 7 to 12.
Yeah,
I thought you
it's
were
a grade-
referencing
it's a
something
grade
else.
7.
Okay, sorry.
It's-
Okay,
it-
great.
it-
7 to 12.
It's
Okay,
one
thank
school
you.
that has grades 7 through 12. Now it's been approved for that. But, I had a conversation with Steve Chamberlain. So we got to go all the way back to when we first started talking about grade level configurations. And I called Steve and I said, what are the advantages to a 712? He said, I love this because you talk about accelerating and my kid needs to take algebra. They're in algebra because we're not bringing algebra.
But you also have seventh graders with them.
Yep. And it happens all the time, Liz. I will tell you, I was in a high school where the middle school was across the parking lot. We had 6th graders who came over and took classes in the high school. Okay.
That's
It's
a
just
parent's choice.
understood.
This isn't a parent's choice. Your kid gets on a bus or they go to a different school.
Understood. I'm just saying that the students are very adaptable and they embrace that and the staff embraces it. So it does happen, I guess, that there are those configurations that
I do think
exist.
Dr. Wilson brings up a good point in that, we really need to think more deeply this year and, with these kids than maybe in the past or future years because of what we have all been through.
I'm
in the
going to start
last 3
crying
years.
right now because Hampstead's full.
We had, just to remind the board, when we proposed last year combining the middle school and the high school bus routes, there were a lot of concerns about, oh my gosh, my 5th grader is going to be on with the high schoolers, right? We're 150 days into it. There have been minimal problems. In fact,
There's no high
I
schoolers ride the bus,
think-
Mike.
that's not accurate.
I
There,
did
there are
for
high
2/3
schoolers
of the
riding
way.
those
Of course
buses.
there are.
Yeah, there are
course
fewer.
there are.
The high schoolers are outnumbered. I'll give you that one. But they're there. And so
Juniors and seniors, a lot of them aren't riding the bus.
there are some.
There
Liz.
are some.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to
I
see
know
those
exactly who's on those buses.
And so I just come back to again, we are factoring all of these pieces in, but at the end of it all, we have to figure out how to make all these puzzle pieces fit together and do the best we can. And we always err on the side of kids. We do.
You're not.
We do.
That's my personal opinion.
Your opinion, right. All right. So I guess, were there any questions on the manifest?
Oh, it's got 3 signatures.
All right, thank you.
And we're going to talk about that next time.
With that, we will go into non-public session. I'll take a. Did you have anything, Darlene?
Oh.
With
Thanks
that,
for staying.
I know.
Last person standing.
thank you.
Yay.
I'll make a motion to go into non-public session according to RSA 91-A:311
Have a good
A
night.
through C Thank you, Darlene, which is concerning the dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee or the disciplining of such employee or the investigation of any charges against him unless the employee affected has a right to a meeting, and 2, requests that the meeting be open, in which case the request shall be granted. B, the hiring of any person as a public employee, and C, matters which, if discussed in public, would likely affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of the body or agency itself, unless such a person requests an open meeting. Andrew?
Is there a second to that motion?
Aye.
There you go. Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Heidi? Aye.
Aye.
Tara? Liz?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. So with that, we're in non-public session. Have a good evening. Our next meeting is on
June 1st.
June 1st. I did that.